Hello and welcome to episode 58 of Nerds and Words. I get to be your host once again, Tim Allen 1337. Apologies for taking last week off. I have no idea what happened. I assume it was just my fault, but we're here, back, and ready to give you a ton of MMO content. A lot has happened with all of us. We have a lot to download on you. We've got New World Beta coming. We've got a bunch of these kids have been playing a ton of Bless. We've got some big BDO stuff that's been going on and patches and such. So, without further ado, let me introduce everybody once again. They fixed the game! Moreland TV, how are you?
Did they fix it though, or?
I don't know. I just hear you say that pretty often.
Oh, okay.
The person most likely to have a Bible thrown at them, Kerr, welcome back.
Yo, what's up?
And the man that was recently awarded $330,000 in a settlement with Home Depot over being lightly sunburned while in the gardening department of Home Depot, Potion Shop TV.
It is I. Yeah, it's actually true. Like they need to have warning signs up when you go outside that the sun might give you a sunburn, and so yeah, it's dangerous out there.
So as we normally do, we break the ice and also get into the conversations by talking about what we did this week. Kind of know what these two guys did, so I'm sorry, the pointing doesn't reference what Moreland and Potion did. So I'd like to hear what Kerr did this week to start, and then we'll jump into the rest of you guys.
So my shit was kind of crazy. I'm actually going to start with last week because we didn't podcast last week.
True.
If you look in the Discord, you can see some pictures. So I was midstream one day last week, and some guys were pressure washing outside. They were like pressure washing the door and the walls and outside of my partner place. And water, like they somehow blew the little floor piece off from outside the door, and water was rushing in my living room and flooded my living room and got in my PC because I have my PC sitting on the ground.
Wow.
And that was like, it like fucked my power supply and shit. And I had to like file a claim at the head office of my apartment place. It was pretty fucked.
God damn, dude.
Dang.
Yeah.
Did they get it sorted out? Are you still processing it?
Yeah, I met with them and their insurance people on Monday, and they're trying to like screw me out of it because like I move out of this place this weekend, so I'm trying to get that fixed like ASAP. But I guess I got pretty lucky because it was only my power supply that got fried and it didn't like surge everything else, but it was fucking crazy. Like I was like midstream and I was sitting here and every now and then I started tapping my feet and I was like, why is my toe wet? And I didn't
Did I pee?
Yeah, bro. I didn't.
How do you not think anything about that? What?
Oh, dude. And then I look down. I'm like, whoa. And I see water rushing in out from under the door. Cause like I was complaining for like an hour about them pressure washing outside. And the bad thing is it was fucking raining. Like they were literally pressure washing outside while it was raining.
Oh.
And yeah, my power supply got fucked. I thought everything died because my PC just shut off.
My gosh, that's crazy.
And like I had no shoes on and I was just sitting there looking at it and I was like, I don't know what to do because I don't like, do I step in the water and unplug my PC and risk getting electrocuted or what? I was fucking freaking out, dude. It was crazy.
So I used to be a competitive PC benchmarker thing. It was a weird arc. But I started like min-maxing like everything that has to do with benchmarking. And one of the things is like dust collection. And so even if you just build like a 6-inch platform to keep it off the ground, number one, it's like safer in every way, shape, and form, from pets, dust, everything, water, etc. But number two, you have to like maintain your computer way less than if it was just sitting flat on the ground, whether it's carpet or tile or what have you. It's just way better to put your PC on anything besides the flat floor.
Yeah, I've got mine on a little shitty IKEA, like 1 foot coffee stand thing.
Yep.
Yeah, I definitely learned from the mistake. From now going forward, I will definitely have my PC like on something off the ground, maybe some kind of little shelf or something like that. But
yeah, I've got like a little 15-inch mini base kind of thing that it sits on, and it's like level with everything. Gets good airflow. You know, there's not a lot of dust flying into it and stuff like that. So just, I don't know, maybe a PSA for everybody listening that, you know, from Kerr's story, just get your PC, get everything you can off the floor, actually. And it'll last way longer and you won't have to like spray it out nearly as often.
I actually live in like 100-year floodplain. So I was like,
oh God,
this is like, it's not like a big deal.
Okay.
But I thought about this like, well, if I happen to live long enough to see this happen, right? And I just get bad luck and it floods to place. I have my PC up and it's elevated, I think, like 2.5 feet off the ground, so it has to flood a lot in order to get my PC. You know, that's the most valuable thing, right? So, gotta have.
But I
the
guarantee you that
priorities
the
straight.
dust collection that you have in your video cards and all your fans and stuff like that is 70% less than somebody who's got their PC on the floor.
Oh yeah.
Do you
It's
guys
nice.
have anything on your PC that like you would actually be devastated if it crashed and lost everything? I feel like nowadays I've got everything's like so easy to back up, or everything's on Google Drive, or like
I actually reformat my computer every year in January.
Yeah, I don't know. Like the only thing I cared about in the past was like I lost the CDs, so I couldn't reinstall the game. And so now I don't have to worry about that because they're all on Steam or online or something, so I can just re-download the game.
even half of my save games are on Steam now. There's some games where like when I have a new computer, I've got to find where they are and transfer them over. But yeah, I don't feel like there's that much stuff that gets like that's like hard to or
Yeah.
that would be like devastating to lose. It's just the hardware itself. But you know, if you got insurance, then it's not the end of the world.
The only thing that I was worried about losing was like pictures of my kid. But after the last physical altercation I got into, I realized I need to back up my phone every month at the very least. So I started doing that. And if any of my electronics die, I don't lose. Even like Streamlabs OBS saves everything to the cloud. The only thing I'd be fucked off about losing and what I don't back up enough is my chat bot doesn't upload to the cloud. And so I need to back that up more often. But everything else is pretty safe for me.
Yep.
Yeah, I've kind of gotten to that point too. So this is back when I was in high school. I had a house fire. I was in like my 11th grade year, and like my PC got destroyed at the time. So like I kind of got into this thing where like now I'm obsessed with putting almost anything I can on I have an external hard drive, right? It's like a 2 terabyte little external hard drive that I keep a lot of stuff on, or on Google Drive, just because like shit happens, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
that's really smart.
that was my week last week. It was pretty fucking crazy.
That's
Yeah.
wild, man. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good. I got lucky because again, like my PC just shut off, and I thought everything was just fucked. Well, I went to Best Buy the next morning and I bought a new power supply just to put it in and see if it would work, and everything worked fine. It was just my power supply that got fucked. So I don't know if power supplies nowadays are just better and that they don't like surge your entire system if water gets in it or something, but I got pretty lucky.
Yeah, I think you got lucky. I think that's
That
I think
sounds
we can leave it at that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty sick.
Yeah, I got pretty lucky. And then this week school started back, and then work and stuff, so I've been crazy busy, but yeah, that's about it. Playing a little FF14 mostly in my free time.
What level are you
How have
playing
you been
Final
liking
Fantasy?
that?
I've been liking it a lot. I finally got to the point where I just want to branch out and play a lot of different classes. So like my main character is still warrior. It's like my highest because like the main story boosts your so much EXP. But I've been starting the trek of like leveling other classes. So I started playing rogue. It's like my first DPS that I've really played. I've gotten that to like 40. It's been pretty fun. I don't like how after level 30 it becomes like Naruto and you're doing like hand signs and jutsus and shit. That's kind of
You're gonna be a ninja, right? It becomes a ninja.
yeah, you
so
become a
it's
ninja.
just gonna get more and more weeby the further you go.
Yeah, that's kind of weird, dude. I don't know. I mean, a lot of the skills are cool, but I was like, why'd you have to go from
Hand signs.
why do you gotta do the hand signs and stuff, dude? That's kind of weird. And then who else was I messing around? I was messing around with Arcanist, because Arcanist can split to 2 different jobs, right? And once they hit 30. So just kind of like trying to unlock everything. But it's been pretty fun.
Yeah, I'm actually really curious to look at more into Final Fantasy 14 when I give a moment. Like right now, I'm so into Blessed Unleashed, I haven't really had the opportunity to take like a weekend or something to play a little bit.
So for me, if I can piggyback off that a little bit, I've been trying to contemplate what to play next, because the so Kerr said that it would take me 2 weeks to get banned from the server. of GTA RP. Boy, that was actually a really good guess.
Did they finally ban you?
No, they didn't ban me. I decided to leave. I got in this like really deep, weird story arc, and like some veterans of the server that are also admins at some level started cheating, which is metagaming.
Ooh.
Yeah, they were discussing and changing the parameters of the story through Discord DMs. So they were talking about in-character stuff out of character. And so
Interesting.
I actually did a lot of work to learn as much about what was happening. I was stealing one of the main boss's wives, and they tried to kill her. But I called the police, and I knew one of the police officers, and he gave me like a full sit rep of what happened. And so I had all this information, but I streamed it. So they stream sniped me, and then they metagamed with that information. And so I pulled up this guy's stream for a second just to see what somebody else's GTA 5 RP on the server stream looked like. And it was like, oh yeah, cunt, we're gonna Bill thinks he's gonna steal my wife, and we're just gonna we're gonna demolish his crew and all this stuff. And he thinks her memory's gone. Like, it was all this stuff. Like, he just took exactly everything I knew and that I streamed, and then made a plan out in Discord. I got screenshots of all of it. I got the clip of him on stream. I sent it to the admins, but the people I was reporting it to are like tight friends with this guy. He's been on the server for years. So they're like, yeah, we're just, this was a bad situation, but we were able to solve it in character by making somebody else kill their character. So everything's fine. I'm like, yeah, so like it's solved, but where's the punishment for all these people cheating? What do you mean?
Exactly.
What do you mean? It's solved. Like, okay, well they all cheat, right? So all these Discord messages, they cheated. Yeah, but remember like 2 weeks ago when you ran into a helicopter and we warned you for running into a helicopter? You're not supposed to do that. I'm like, all right, well, I didn't. What does that have to do with this? I just don't know if you're going to fit in here. I'm like, you know what?
Ooh.
I don't think I am.
Ooh.
Yeah, I don't think I am. So it was just like this whole big clicky thing. And so I came in like a wrecking ball, right? I was like, hey, on Instagram, you can post pictures of your character. I'm like, hey, I'm going to fuck your wife. And that was all fun. I made a lot of friends, but like as far as like getting into like deep RP and like story driven stuff, it wasn't working out too well. And then as far as like gang wars and stuff, you're supposed to like warn somebody 3 times before you pull out a gun and just shoot them. And that wasn't happening. And then the police were favoring the other people. It was just like a bunch of fucking drama. So I'm just like, so
how do you warn someone 3 times before you shoot them in a gang war situation?
So you have to, if like we had a business, we were the weed dealers of the city. And so if they wanted to come take our business, they actually had to come up and be like, you need to come out with your hands up with a gun drawn, come out with your hands up and talk to us. And then they can rob us or something. And if we don't comply after 3 verbal warnings, they can just shoot us. And so you have to warn somebody 3 times before you shoot. And that's pretty common across all RP servers. So you're just not random deathmatching is a big term. You can't just come up and just blast people for whatever reason. Now, 30 minutes after that initiation, you don't have to reinitiate, right? So if somebody comes up and like, hey, hands up 3 times, and then they shoot at you, you can come back 25 minutes later and just kill the guy. But there has to be some sort of warning. So there's, so it's not just like team deathmatch, it's RP. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's very common in any like RP setting. It's not supposed to be just like open world PvP. There's supposed to be like some story to it and rules of engagement. Like all that stuff adds a lot more like depth and interestingness to the actual encounter. So it's not that interesting to just like walk up to someone and Darkfall Online, pull your weapon out and attack them. Like there's got to be more to it than that.
So we were driving around and kidnapping these guys from this gang that were trying to take our business and be like, you need to fucking stop or come to terms with us or a deal or something. And if they spit in our face or said, fuck you or something, we'd rob them, blast them, and throw them in the river. And so then they would have no memory of what happened. They'd just like come back into the city an hour later and start it all over again. But nobody was really playing by the rules. So I left that server and I got whitelisted on Twitch RP, which is Minimus Maximus from our New World server. Yeah, they whitelisted me. They're not whitelisting anybody. They're not taking applications right now, but I maxed out every character of the application. I put in the most amount of effort I possibly could. And I'm really interested. Apparently, other people have told me that they have like a skill system that's like, what's that game? That fucking RuneScape. They have like a RuneScape type system where like when you do skills, you get better at them. So there's like something to grind. So I'm kind of interested in seeing how all that plays out.
Those guys seem like they'd just be way cooler to play with anyways.
Yeah, just seeing their interactions in like New World just made it seem like they weren't like dicks or stiflers, right? They know how to have a good time.
The idea of metagaming in a GTA RP server, that's so bizarre to me, bro. That's
It's ridiculous.
That's more cringe than like scripting Dalanos, right? Like, what is the point? Like, you're literally just sucking all the fun out of it. What are you trying to win?
So this one guy was like, I guess one of the premier streamers, and like I think he was threatened somehow by my shitty half dead stream coming in and having a check mark or something. I don't know. We never got off on the right foot. But I just caught him cheating, and so in typical Tim Allen fashion, I put up a YRP when you can exclamation point metagame, and I just explained what happened. So he sent me like a 7-paragraph essay in Discord DMs about how innocent he is. I never read it. I just replied to him like, I can't be fucked to read this, man. Like, you're just a cheater.
He just ignored his manifesto.
and then he reported my stream. And then I'm like, yeah, we're done. We're done. We're definitely done. So I'm just moving on. Ravage reached out. I made a tweet about like what happened in Ravage. It's like, yeah, metagaming sucks. It's hard to arbitrate, but you know, when there's obvious favoritism, you know, maybe you should just move to a different server, winky face. So
well, and the thing is, like, RP always comes down. It's only as good as the person who's making the rules for it and the people you're playing with, right? If either one of those aren't good, then it's just not a fun experience.
Well, it's a sandbox, right? And one of my favorite terms is, you know, if you shit in the sandbox, you just turn it into a cat box, and that's all those kids were doing. So it's like, why would I waste any more time here?
Yeah, so I'm actually really interested in hearing, like, because I feel like you're getting a really, really diverse amount of experience from going from like server to server, and I'm really curious, like, at the end of it, what will your conclusion will be about it all? You know, like the ups and the downs, and like what are the things that, you know, MMOs can take from that, or like what are the things that you enjoyed and you'd like to see more in games and stuff. So
yeah, I've created an interesting character that, you know, I have a good chance of iterating on for the next server. So yeah, but I haven't done RP for a better part of a week, and I've been trying to figure out what to play. I played Project Zomboid because I saw Sequisha has played a ton of that.
I hear good things about that.
It's tough. It's a couple people in chat told me, "Wow, I'm surprised to see you playing a game like this," which was a really polite way of, shouldn't you just let Moreland play this?
Hey, you played Dark Souls. You've got cred now.
Yeah, but this is a different kind of. The intricacies of this game are actually pretty staggering, like with farming and the medical things, and it just kind of how things are ambiguous, but they're not like impossible to figure out. But apparently, it's not a skill set I've shown people before. So they're like, is this game really for you, Tim? So I've had to do a little bit of research, but I've had a surprise. It's frustrating, but I've had a surprisingly good time with it. I did play a little Bless Unleashed, but I can't do it, and I feel like it's going to drag me away from my focus on New World. You know, if I really start trying to dig into that, I'm going to be maybe a little too exhausted to be, you know, the leader I need to be for New World.
That's fair. What were your initial thoughts?
My initial thoughts were, I played it for a couple hours, and it was pretty similar to the ones that I had before I played it. I don't like the combo system. I don't like the game. I just don't like it. It's just not my style. It's not my flavor. It's not what I'm looking for. It's not what I want to play. I don't understand where you guys are coming from with the New World thing, but I'm sure it comes in later or something. I'm just being polite. I really don't see the connection whatsoever. And I don't want to play 14 for the same reasons that I just, you know, I really want to be ready the best that I can for New World. And I think that's just what I have to do.
Yeah.
So
I think it's fair.
I respect it.
I really tried with the Bless thing, but I know I'm gonna.
What would be the thing,
like Massive?
What would be like the thing that you would say it has going for it, as like that you were kind of like surprised by, and what would be something that you absolutely don't want to play ever again?
It's a pretty well polished game as far as like what it wants to be from just the couple hours that I played. Like it knows what it's trying to do, right? From a couple hour perspective. But the things that I won't like about the game are things that I won't see for a couple dozen hours. Enhancements, the dungeon grind, all that. I don't know. I don't know if the PvP is fleshed out the way that I'd want it to be.
Definitely not.
I don't
Yeah,
we
fair.
had this conversation in the last podcast, right? Like I don't know if I'm not going to enjoy the leveling process. I know that because I don't like the like really squishy combat and the kind of enclosed feeling maps. And so I don't know if there's something towards the end of the game that's really going to make it worth me going through that. And then I'm just going to have less stamina for New World, which is going to be, hurt all of us. So I'm just going to stay away from it.
Yeah, actually, that's very smart. I think you made really good points on that.
I wish I could. I really want to play with the guys. I even booted up League of Legends last night. Like, I really want to play a game with somebody, but I can't do Bless.
There's always HOTS.
Yeah, I've been enjoying that. That's why somebody said last night, well, every time Merlin boots up HOTS, Tim just shows up. Yep, because I'm on Blizzard looking for people playing HOTS, man. I have fun with that game. ARAM's great.
It's actually
good. It really is.
Except for that night we lost like 8 in a row. That was nuts.
Dude, I've never had there's not that many heroes that I haven't like learned and fleshed out in that game, but that night I got every single one of them back to back and nothing that I actually knew how to play. That was crazy.
I like listening to you play Orphea. I'm pretty surprised you've never played her before.
She's fucking busted, dude.
Yeah, the movement's what makes the difference.
Got MVP in my first game with her, like 40% team damage. Okay, nice hero.
I was thinking about, and if I could plug this on y'all's stream here for a second, I was thinking about renting a CS 1.6 server, kind of in between this New World. Like most people do, like Minecraft servers or whatever. I've been playing CS 1.6 with my friends when we have like too many for HOTS, and it's been wild fun because some people play CS:GO, right? And that's like this big sweaty thing, and you can find somebody who's, legendary Eagle Master or whatever. But I'd actually really like to rent a 1.6 server, even though the game's $10. It's not Minecraft. It's still really silly fun and nostalgic for anybody who's over 30. So
I never got into CS when I was a kid, so I
Same.
don't have any nostalgia for it.
I just played Halo the entire time. That was the main reason why I didn't touch it.
Even if you didn't, it's still fun to play. Even if you didn't play it or have nostalgia for it, it's still really fun to play in that group.
I tell you what.
So I was thinking about just like renting a server for a month and fucking around with it.
I tell you what looks fun on that is the like the skating and stuff, like the custom maps. That's what actually like legitimately looks fun to me.
Well, that's part of it too. You can have deathmatch. You can do like skating. There's a whole bunch of like custom maps and training things. There's a lot you can do with 1.6 that you actually, I don't know if you can do with Global Offensive. But that's not why people play that. So I don't know. I've been a little nostalgic the past couple of weeks for personal reasons, and I thought it'd be fun. I don't have any nostalgia or any real connection to Minecraft, but I thought it'd be cool to post up a 1.6 server and maybe pass it around and see if people would come in, a couple nights a week or something.
Did you get into Valheim at all when that was the craze?
No, I probably would now, which is funny, but the timing for me was wrong on that.
There's a big update to Valheim coming in a few weeks, so I think people will be that'll be something to do with the boys.
I would be very interested in playing that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to be booting that back up.
I should give that another shot, but I think I might run a 1.6 server. I'm sorry I'm taking so much time up with this, but like what I've been doing is so different from what the rest of the podcast is going to be talking about. So I just, I got to play like Fallout New Vegas. I've been playing some Apex and doing ranked in Apex and stuff. And I've been having, I have 5 hours in a Fallout New Vegas and I haven't turned the game on. I've just been modding it, which is kind of the Skyrim thing.
Yeah, that's how I was with Skyrim. I modded it for like 20 hours, then played it for like 3, and then uninstalled.
Skyrim's coming out for the 7th time, like next month again. So
Yeah, dude, they're
The
coming out with
Super
some
Ultimate Edition?
stupid, some
Yeah.
12-year edition, bro. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
I saw an Instagram post that was like, boy, I bet you feel old now. Skyrim came out next month. Skyrim came out 10 years ago, and 8 years ago, and 5 years ago, 3 years ago, and next month.
Yeah,
So,
pretty much.
I want to apologize to everybody. I sent everybody to y'all's stream for the podcast. I want to apologize to everybody for not being around on stream lately, but I need some time off. I got to figure out what I'm doing. I don't want to just like boot up and be like, hey, I'm live. So
I haven't been streaming much this last week anyway. I've been trying to figure out what I wanted to do with Bus Unleashed. I am helplessly addicted to this game at this point.
Yep.
I was watching you stream it.
Yeah, it's
trying to figure out what chest to wear with Valinaris.
Yeah, I think the main thing that's got me hooked on this game right now is the progression. I've always enjoyed this progression based games, and I feel like they've just 100% nailed the progression feeling. And the PVE is challenging enough and well balanced enough to add an extra layer there to make it worth my time.
The progression in this game is so good, man. Like I don't know if I've ever played an MMO where I directly feel every improvement that I make to my character in as tangible of a way as I do in this game.
Yeah, it's like you'll get like some piece of gear, and like, in BDO you get like 5 AP, but you don't feel like you got 5 AP. You feel like you got nothing. You got like it doesn't feel like it matters.
I don't think I've ever felt an AP gain in BDO past 269 AP.
Yeah, you just don't feel them. I mean, when you're new to the game, I'm sure you feel them and notice them and all that. But
281. I 281. Shoot him.
Man, I don't know. I had that day where I gained like 20 AP in 3 hours, and even that, when I went to grind, I was like, okay, I'm definitely stronger, but I don't feel like I'm fucking a year of progress stronger. Like, Jesus Christ, this is all I get.
No, you get like 200 trash per hour more, right?
Dude.
Yeah,
you
get like 200 trash
like
per hour.
10% better at grinding. Like, okay, what am I doing here?
Right.
Yeah, that's been the big thing. I do think that the treadmill is much faster than BDO's treadmill, and so I feel like that's going to, like, I feel like that what the result of that is going to be that you're going to burn out and run out of content faster, right? You're gonna get to a point much faster where you're like, okay, well, I'm done, and I guess that's fine. I don't really have any complaints with that. It's just something to kind of realize that a lot of people want an MMO that's going to last a very long time. And I feel like that's a challenge that they need to figure out, is like how they're going to, and same for New World really, is how they're going to make, the second year of progression feel as good as the first year did.
Or even the second month. I mean, I think Bless has the structure to where they can do content updates and push like a little bit harder dungeons, or like even if it's just harder modes of the same dungeons. Like I think they have kind of the theme park treadmill structure to where they can continue to make it interesting if they do it right. New World, I'm really not sure about, because it's like, once we're all going to hit 60 in about 2 weeks, and then we're going to max out our gear in another 2 weeks after that, and then what are they going to add exactly?
Well, and you don't really even need max gear to do the in-game content. You really only need like 500 gear score,
right?
So like, I don't know, I'm right with you. Like, I don't know, I don't even know a reason to really put 600 other than for the prestige and the feeling of completion.
You don't really need it in PvP. I mean, there's the perks that you get on your gear, but the actual stats are kind of scaled down. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely think stacking perks takes like priority over stats, especially for PvP. Now, PvE is probably different, right? But like, I feel like if you have a piece of gear that has less stats on it, but it gives you an extra gravity well hit, you would take it over gaining an extra bit of defense, especially in PvP, right?
Yeah, but here's the other thing about that game, man. It's still in such a beta state with all those new weapons and perks and stuff. I feel like I'm gonna spend, a month getting perfect perks and all my gear, and then they're going to nerf it, right? They're going to make now only one gravity well perk can be active. Okay, well, I just put that on 8 pieces of gear and grinded for hours and hours per piece, and now it's like I'm very worried about that when it comes to my progression in that game.
Yeah, I feel like the better choice is to make more interesting perks in the future that are even better, and then gear that's way more tanky to counteract that also positive buff.
I don't really have that concern with New World because I feel like the progression in that game is familiarity with the weapons and being able to be diverse with them and still successful as the meta like bounces. I was hanging out with my buddy Mark last night, and I was trying to talk about New World and what really drew me to it in a long term sense, which is a question that because I've dove so hard on New World that I have to answer pretty often. And really, like, people are going to come in for a couple months. This game's great. They're going to be like, there's no content amount, But then there's been this arc, if you've paid attention to like Splitgate is coming back. Like these weird games come back like 6 months after they launch. They get some of their shit in order. And then the people that have been sitting there learning and studying and playing the game, day after day for months on end are the ones that are then, have all the knowledge and are kind of the gatekeepers of everything. And so that to me is kind of the long term for me, not so much like the stats on my gear. It's going to be max out all the weapons, master as many of them as possible, and style on kids in PvP because of that. And this is so fucking overused since the past month, but that Dark Souls type combat where you really have to decide when you attack and when you defend and when you create space and all that kind of stuff is something that's so foreign to the genre in general that just playing it for a couple months is going to make you so far from a master, and playing it for half a year, especially when there's 3 or 4 months when everybody else isn't playing it. That's the progression for me. That's what's going to set me apart as a player from everybody else, not necessarily what the substats of my gear are going to be, because that gets changed in every MMO, in my opinion, right?
Mm-hmm.
You think you've got it figured out, and then once everybody figures it out, it's either a dead game or they change it up. So there's enough depth in the combat, and then they're obviously going to make tweaks and balances and all that kind of stuff in New World to where I want to be ahead of the curve all the way through, top to bottom, regardless of what's changed, and not really worry so much about the gear progression, which I understand is 2 different conversations from Bless, than New World. But for me, Bless's progression in New World sense is just getting good at the game, understanding combat, the 20 different weapons they're going to have. If that makes sense.
So, go ahead, my bad.
Yeah, New World does have the sort of end-game competitive PvP scene going on. Bless has a lot less of that. There's really no, there's no territory control or really, meta PvP objectives. It's all just instanced arena combat for the most part. So I think New World's a lot more, you're a lot more, motivated to just get good at the PvP. Yeah, I definitely think that there's a lot of that going on. And I also think that, you can see in the design of New World, it's kind of like BDO in the sense where you can clearly see that there's very smart, thoughtful devs there alongside the clearly pants on head stupid ones. So there's that tension, right? And I feel like that game's very 50-50 right now, where it could do exactly what you're saying. 6 months after launch, that could be the best MMO on the market, hands down. And it could also be completely dead in 6 months. And it really is just going to come down how they handle it, and how they update it. Because it just oscillates so far back and forth right now in its beta stages.
Yeah, really I was gonna ask if do you guys know if they've released the patch notes for what they've changed since now to last beta? I saw something where they
said they were gonna put patch notes when the beta drops. So
okay,
we have to wait until the 9th.
It's crazy. They really should release it a couple days early.
Would be
Dank
nice.
Dank just put somewhere in the Aftershock Discord that they fixed the double hit Great Axe heavy hit thing.
Thank God. Could you imagine if they didn't? They would have had no credibility if they didn't fix that.
I'm trying to figure out where he found that out from. Now I can't even remember what channel he put it in. But true, right? It was either something that they wanted or was an obvious error, but he found it from somewhere. So
I was trying to see if what they changed, if I want to bother playing because it's a 3-day beta. Like, what all can you really do in 3 days, right?
Practice leveling to 30.
Like, you can definitely
yeah.
do some early game stuff. True.
It takes about 100 hours to get to level 100. So if you didn't sleep the entire time, you get close to level 60, you know? You get close.
So
I don't think we need to practice the 30 plus leveling. I think that's very solved. It's the 1 to 30 that's going to be the big race, you know?
Mm-hmm.
We also need to use this just like internally, right? For Aftershock, we need to use this as like a opportunity to see who's serious, and probably get a more accurate head count for live. So people who are like, well, I don't want to play the 2-week closed beta, you know, and aren't playing this beta at all either, are going to be put on the back burner, right? You have to do something. We've all been out here solving problems, figuring shit out. You know, you have to come out, you have to show out, you have to support what we're doing, you know, especially when spots are going to be competitive, you know, in the 100-man guild. So between that and doing kind of a dry run for earning money, you know, early game, and setting up a leaderboard and all that kind of stuff. You know, when it first was announced, I was like, 3 days pass. I don't give a fuck about that. That's a waste of time. And then I had to put my GM hat on for a little bit. I'm like, all right, there's information we can get. You know, the game's up for a little bit. Let's figure it out. Let's get some organization. Let's see who's actually going to show up. All that kind of stuff. So, you know, I wish it was a week, you know, because there's no point in owning a territory. There's definitely no point in owning territory. I don't even think there's going to be time. There might be time for one war, but who's going to do those PvP missions to actually drop it, you know?
Yeah.
So,
I think like Val said that the best way to go about it is like trying to speed run from 1 to level 20 or level 25 and like finding the fastest way to like for a player to generate 1,000 gold off the gate, like out the gate.
Yeah,
I think
or
that
even 2,000 gold, because realistically, there's going to be some, you know, hyper competent players carrying the slower ones as usual. So we're gonna be speedrunning more than just 1,000 gold, I think.
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to be the way. And again, I don't even think that'll take like this crazy amount of time commitment either, especially if we have like, if we kind of delegate a little bit and have different people trying different things. Like, I don't even think it would take the whole 3-day to figure stuff out. Because we're gonna
get a territory on launch for sure. It's just a question of if we get our first pick or not.
Right. Yeah. And that is all about the dedication of the people that join us, right? And so
whether or not any big streamers play on our server.
Oh god, that's really true. So I'm at about 3 or 4 different New World Discords for like PvP summits and all this kind of weird shit and alliances and stuff. And I'm trying to glean information about where people are going. So I'm putting some of that information in the officer channel so we can make good decisions about where we go. And we can see where other people are going too. I'm actually in a pretty large Discord.
So we haven't decided on a server yet, right?
Right. So I just posted something about the server selection.
Okay.
There's just about every major Eastern guild in this Discord that I'm in, and I posted something interesting to look at. So when you guys get a chance, I also have rough numbers on just about every guild too. So,
well, I think ultimately the goal is always just to have fun, right? And I think that's what we're going for. You know, it's just finding a good competition. It's a fair match. We don't want to we don't want to steamroll everybody, but at the same time, we don't want to get steamrolled ourselves by some Zerg where we just can't have fun.
No, I want to win. I understand the sentiment. I definitely want to have fun, but winning is high on the list.
Yeah.
So I mean, you understand how I ran, BDO Aftershock was.
Sure. How do you think, like, for people who are like who don't know about New World, what is like this winning, this like regions? How does this all work for people who don't know about New World's Siege?
So regions give you a bunch of benefits, including transportation is actually really important because the fast travel has a cost with a material that's kind of hard to get or inconvenient. It's got a low cap on how much you can store. And so if you need to travel a bunch, it's difficult. But if your faction owns territories, you can travel between them very quickly. And then if your guild owns them, you can travel between them even cheaper or quickly, however you want to put that. And then on top of that, if you own a territory, your guild owns a territory. Your guild collects taxes from that territory, from property taxes, crafting taxes, refinement taxes, and trading. And so it's all localized, so it all matters. So it's income, it's fast travel, it's notoriety, and it's bragging rights, if that's maybe a subsection of notoriety.
Yeah, bragging rights is the biggest.
It's
I
basically
also
the only win condition that I can find in this game outside of if they have ranked arenas, which they are coming out with arenas. So that's your personal level. But don't you want to be like one of the best PvPers in the ranked arenas in one of the best macro guilds, that owns the most amount of territories? So
I also think taxes are going to be even more insane on launch than we saw in the 2-week beta, especially because I think there's just going to be overall more people playing, I think, right? And just more willing to take it seriously, right? So that's more people generating tax money.
So from the territories that we had, we didn't own, the game wasn't live enough for us to really see the payout of the territories that we owned. But Potion Shop was right in the ones that we owned would eventually be some of the highest paying. But when in preview, when there was substantially less people playing per server, we owned First Light and made 5,000 to 10,000 a day, where we spent money owning territories in beta because we had more in-game territories. So we actually picked territories that were, like live territories, if you will, versus.
So we're going for more like the scaling aspect, more so than the early get in, pump and dump, right?
I think it's really interesting overall, like the dynamic of how a guild can take it. Like, I'm really curious because it's 50-50, right? It's 50 players versus another 50 players. One's in the fort and one's on offensive. And I'm really curious if they're going to be able to manage the lag, because that was a huge issue in the past for taking one of those territories or defending one, right?
They said that the purpose of this test was more of like a stress test, but it sounded like they were talking about logging queues. I don't know to what degree they're taking seriously the problem about lag in Siege. I wish they would say something more about that.
Yeah, I think it's a huge issue. But I mean, I guess if people were having troubles getting into the game, then they're never going to make it to Siege anyway, right? So, I mean, I guess the thought process makes sense, but still, it would be nice if they had mentioned something about it.
Yeah, I was having that conversation yesterday too, on like how many people use Amazon's like server service. It's like 60% of the country uses Amazon servers, and the fact that they're having lag issues, and what I assume is their flagship game coming into this new market is probably something that, like BDO just bought like lease webs or some like low budget fucking bullshit. And when we were like, our servers suck, they're like, well, we have 2 more years in our contract. Get fucked. I don't think that's gonna work. Number one, I don't think that'll play for Amazon as like a company. And number two, there's not a lease, it's their fucking servers, right?
Fuck,
like they just
lease webs, dude.
they email those guys. They're like, hey, so that, and maybe it's something in their code or whatever the case is, but either way, no matter how you cut it, it's a bad look, right? So even if it is a little bit there on live, it can't sustain. It's such a bad look in so many different ways that I don't think the organization as a whole will allow it to persist that way.
Yeah, I think big Amazon will come down and say, hey, you got to fix this. And I think that's good for us because it reinforces. I think it's a feedback loop to make sure the gamers have a good experience. Because if they don't and the servers aren't feeling good, then and we can make enough ruckus about it, then people will be like, oh, maybe Amazon servers aren't that good after all. And then they're like, whoa, wait, hold up a second, let's fix that right away.
Such a huge part of their business. There's no way they can allow that to be the perception.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really curious about it.
What are you grinning at, Moreland? What are you thinking?
I do not share your optimism at all. I think if they can't fix the servers, then they'll just fucking write the game off and move on to Lost Ark. I don't think that the gaming division has any power whatsoever in the overall Amazon structure. They're a drop in a fucking bucket, dude. Like, yeah, I don't know. I don't think any higher ups at Amazon are giving 2 fucks about New World and whether sieges are laggy or not.
I just think it's so weird that they didn't have this issue during the betas, right? Like, why is it an issue
They
now?
had it a bit, yeah. I don't think it's a server issue. I really don't. I think it's an issue with all the different weapons and shit that they've added in the last 3 months and the probably 12-hour a day pace that they've been working to get this game out on time. I think there's just a shitload of code in the background that's sloppy and lazy, and they're paying a price for it by trying to launch this game a year before they should. I guarantee you all the lag is because of Ice Gauntlet and Great Axe and that shit. Like it has nothing to do with the servers. Yeah, it has nothing to do with the servers.
I agree with that, but I agree with that. I think we all came to that conclusion. But when you look at it at a surface value, which almost everybody will, they come into the game, they get recruited into a guild, they go into the fight, and they go, oh, the server just lagged out, right? They're not thinking critically about what's causing it like we did, right? So it's going to like show poorly on them. And so that's the point I was trying to make and probably articulated pretty poorly, is that I think they'll fix that because they can't look like they've got server issues, because it is, even though the MMO genre and their gaming thing is not a big part of their business, the server part is, and they can't have a bad look on that at all, especially when gaming Twitter and all that is so huge and things trend super quickly.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what their focus will be, right? Like it'll be telltale like how Amazon runs their company. If nothing happens and they have bad servers, right? And I don't know, I'm not really an expert enough on how they run their company currently to know the answer to that.
No, we're sitting here speculating, right?
I'm definitely having like a grounded view about it, right? Where it's like, okay, I know for sure, without a shadow of a doubt, that the first month of the game will be fun. And probably the first 3 months of the game will be crazy fun. It's just more so about what are they going to do to provide that longevity is what I'm curious about, right? That's more the question for me, because I know for sure the first month, maybe 2 or 3 months is going to be crazy fun, but it's like, how do they keep that luster, right? Like after things get settled and figured out, and like what's the long-term play?
I think a similar comparison to this would be like this, for the same reasons why you can't play Bless Unleashed for a long time, because there's not that in-game thing that you can seek out, right, and go for. It's the same thing for a lot of gamers. And if there's not like something that lasts more than a month in an MMO, it's sort of like, why am I doing what I'm doing a little bit, So yeah, I can see that. I can see that. I think they're going to answer that pretty fast, though. Like I think in January or February they're going to come out with an update. And I think then we'll get a lot more perspective on how they're handling that side of development.
It's going to be lows. I mean, just like any other MMO, there's going to be plenty of lows.
I think the problem is just, I think it's really simple. I think it's an identity crisis. Like if we compare something like Bless Unleashed to something like World of Warcraft, like the model is very obvious. Like in WoW, you have basically a start and a finish. You have a point in which you've beaten all the bosses, you have all your gear, and there's literally like nothing to do. And so the devs try to come up with these convoluted, like grindy systems to keep you coming back. And I know that retail WoW has changed and become more of like a Diablo style game where you just kind of grind gear forever now. But like nevertheless, there is a point where you have beaten the last boss and you don't have any challenges left in the game until the next boss comes out. And so that's clearly a model that works because they were the top game for a very long time, and FF14, which is now becoming the top game, pretty much does the exact same thing. But when it comes to a game like New Worlds, it's really, to me, just a basic identity crisis. I think they haven't yet decided if the content is going to be on the burden of the developers or if it's going to be something that they just allow the players to create emergently. Because there's two distinct pathways, right? The theme park path and the sandbox path. And if they're going to make the game a theme park game, then we need regular content updates every 3 months to give us something new to do and work on. And if they're not going to do that, then they need to give players the tools to create their own emergent content, which they could easily do as well. The game actually has a very good foundation. I think it has a better foundation as a sandbox, since that's how it was originally designed. I think it has a way better shot as that kind of a game that does in a theme park. but it literally feels like they can't decide what they want to do, and they're trying to make both games at once and splitting their resources, and I think they just need to pick one direction or the other.
I think they're doing a better job than I actually would have expected. With them coming out with arenas, that's such like a huge thing for me. And maybe that's just like my allegory of the cave and my perception of what I wanted from BDO I could never get, where that was kind of, in my opinion, one of the kings of MMO PvP for years and years. And it was this low hanging fruit we never got. They came out with a mobile version, they got it, and we're all like, oh, okay, all right, see ya. But I think with forts, them introducing forts is a really good sign that they're aware that they need to give us that emergent kind of tools for our own content. Because look at how much fucking content we got out of that. We literally made friends with opposite faction because of the good fights that we had from there. And I wish, part of me wishes we were important enough for them to see how drastically the entire vibe of the server changed because of that one night we just were fucking bored, got some decent PvP, went out and held that fucking fort. Proverbs came around, Minimus Maximus, but they were already kind of our friends, but we got even more of their respect. That was the best thing that happened in those 2 weeks, was that 25 v 25-25.
And think about how much dev resources that took compared to making a theme park style dungeon with 3 different bosses and mechanics and loot tables and everything else. Think of how brain dead easy it is to just slap a fort down and say, hey, if you go fight over this, you get something kind of cool for it. Like, those forts aren't even that well designed. They're maybe 1/10 of the potential that they could have with a little bit of work. And they are already like extremely good, interesting, tools for players just creating their own content. And the devs have to barely do any work to sustain that. And I mean, to me, this is the low-hanging fruit that exists in all MMOs, right? It's why I'm so like frustrated with the direction that the genre has gone, because it's right there and it seems so obvious. Like, just give people the tiniest tools to make their own content, and they'll blow you away. They'll make shit way cooler than you could ever design as a scripted event.
Yeah, I agree. I would say that fighting for those forts was probably the peak of the entire beta for me.
Yeah.
So, and
Like,
I enjoyed
I'm
that
sorry,
a
go ahead,
lot.
Potion.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's very true, right? And I don't think it has to be so linear as it has to be all one or all the other. Like, they just need enough sandbox content to tie us over between big DLCs. And that's what the way I see it. And right now, they just need a little bit more of that sandbox that we can play in, so that we can, like, tie us over 3 months or a year or whatever it'll be until they can get our big update out.
And that's why I like giving suggestions on how to fix games in terms of assets that already exist, right? So those forts were already there. They're already assets that existed. All they did was write a little code for some global buffs and put a flag in there, and it's constantly available. And then we decided to make the content, right? The asset was there, but we made the content. And so if there's any reason to have any sort of hope about this being a PvP-minded game or emergent content and all that kind of stuff, they did it. They've done it before, and we can, lack of a better term, use that over their head in that they've done it before, they can do it again. And I don't want to hope for the best, plan for the worst.
I think
I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. That was a big move. BDO's never done anything like that. Ever. I think Final Fantasy 14 didn't do anything like that either. I'm almost done. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of these games miss this kind of shit, using assets that are already in the game to make emergent content. And New World isn't even launched. They should have been launched, right? Like, we can hold that against them, but they didn't even launch, and they're just like, oh, hey, by the way, here's this. Oh, arenas, yep, got that too. So, like, my checklist is kind of getting checked off here before we even get to launch. And so those lulls of a couple months in between, I've got a lot to do. I've got more to do now than when I committed myself to playing this game long term. And so I don't see that getting worse. I just see it getting at least the same, if not better.
Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing is they for 1 year they have done a insane amount of content for 1 year. Like, for 1 year, that, like, no one would say that they have not done a good
Depends
job.
on who you ask, man. I don't know.
5 dungeons,
Well,
done
Moreland
forts,
disagrees.
more
Ask
weapons.
Gold.
Right? I mean, like the amount of stuff that they have accomplished in 1 week after pivoting from the preview, right? Designing towns, like adding more creatures to the game and stuff like that. I think they've done it in 2 new game zones. I feel like all of that in a year, if they can keep up that a similar pace, maybe not the exact same pace, but a similar pace and direction of the game, I feel like the game's going in the correct direction and it's going at a ludicrous speed. So if that can continue even at half the pace it did in this last year, I feel like they have a bright future ahead of them.
So the crucial part of that statement that you should add, right, is they have a really good time to kill to match up with a decent pace of trying to find the identity of this game, right? They're trying to pull it. They're doing this weird PvE and PvP thing. I think one day they'll have to decide. If not, we'll see how it plays out. But what is really the core of this entire game is a really solid time to kill. And they're bringing it in arenas, and it may be an accident, but I'm hoping they understand what emergent content is, so we have the tools to make our own sandbox and stuff like that. They could just be dumb and lucky, but I'm a little hopeful that it's a touch more than that, mixed in with good time to kill. That's a dangerous concoction.
Yeah, I don't think they have to choose between PvP and PvE. I think they could do both successfully. They just aren't. And to me, it feels like a lack of inspiration. It feels like you have these devs who originally signed on to make a sandbox game. They pivoted halfway through development, and now their boss is saying, "Go make a WoW style dungeon with that where you run in a straight line and kill bosses." And they're kind of like, "Ugh, do I have to?" Like that's what the dungeons in New World feel like to me. It feels like someone who is not inspired to make the content is trying to get it done before the game launches. I'm not like they could easily make really good dungeons to coincide with the open world PvP, and they could have both play styles could easily flourish. There's no reason why that can't happen. I just haven't seen any evidence that it will happen. I think the dungeons that they've added in that game in the last year are not impressive at all. I mean,
we've had that conversation.
5 dungeons, right? Yeah, like those 5 dungeons. I feel like they could have made those in a week with how fucking.
I know Potion likes the dungeons. I abhor them. I think dungeons were already in the game.
The dungeons,
they should have doubled down on the dungeons that they had, the EQ style dungeons that are in there, the elite farming, if you will.
Potion, I'm curious what you think about New World dungeons now that you've played the Blessed dungeons. Do you see the comparison, or do you think I'm crazy?
I still think New World dungeons are better.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I think the basics, of this game of like Blessed Unleashed are way better, but everything else is terrible. It's really comes down to they just need to get the fundamentals of what makes a dungeon fun and polish those to make them actually better. And that's the real problem there. It's like some of the most basic things, like the time to kill for bosses, like rotation of combos, like don't stand here, stand there, right? That's their main problem. It's not like, I think overall their dungeon design, like the appearance aesthetically and visually is phenomenal. It's just they fail at the basics of a dungeon really hard. But I think the stuff that a AAA company can do for that, they knock it out of the park. Like those dungeons are dungeons I would love to spend all day in, all time. I can't do that for like Blessed Unleashed. Like I don't think like they're fun enough to do like 20 times in a row, for the most part. But the problem is that
neither.
That's crazy. I couldn't.
Yeah, sorry, but Blessed Unleashed definitely has the basics down way better, like 10 times better than New World, as far as like mechanics and dodging and balance and stuff like that. They do. I think Blessed Unleashed is light years ahead of almost any other MMO right now as far as balance and basics go.
So I wanted to add on my last statement. Is there a game that you think does PvE and PvP really well that came out in the last like 15 years or so, Moreland? Like, is there like a game where you go, yeah, they do PvP and PvE and they coincide really well together?
I'd say no, dude.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Right.
That's why a lot of the times that I think like, yes, someone can do both, but I feel like it's best to just do one of them well.
So that was my point, right? Holding them and being optimistic about them being able to, when there's really no modern example for them to. This is a new development company, even though they have experienced people. Really hasn't been done well. Maybe if you branch out from like into UO or EverQuest,
Well,
EverQuest didn't even have PvP, right?
I mean, it has been done well, just not in the MMO format. But New Worlds basically just copied the combat from Dark Souls, right? But just made like a ghetto version of it where they forgot half the features. You can easily use the combat in New World to make excellent Dark Souls tier bosses and dungeons that are super interesting and challenging and memorable. They just didn't. Like, it's not like it's hard or impossible to do. They just haven't done it.
That's actually really interesting. There's a thought. What if instead of dungeons, this is so simple it might even like it flew over my head. They have the Dark Souls combat. What if they brought the bosses, the Dark Souls style bosses, scaled them to 4 or 5 people, and made those the dungeons?
That's exactly what Bless does, which is why I think the dungeons are infinitely better than New World. I'm actually shocked that Potion disagrees here, because it's so black and white. The dungeons in Bless and the boss fights in Bless are exquisitely fucking well designed. I feel like I am playing Dark Souls with my friends. They are really that good. And in New World, I've never even got an inkling of that. In New World, I walked up to the boss, I popped Berserk, and I spammed my left click, and I had Frost heal me in the background. I'd never turned my brain on once in a New World dungeon a single time. I was never interested in what I was doing. There was no challenge. We just mowed through everything using, like tank, DPS, and healer as if we were playing World of Warcraft. We didn't treat the game like Dark Souls. We didn't treat it like an action combat game. We treated it like a theme park game where you just mash the button and you win.
Why would you take the combat from a game and not put the bosses in from it?
Well,
what a simple idea. What a simple idea.
Well, I mean, I when I play the dungeons in New World, they remind me of the feeling I get in Destiny 2. Like, I feel that immersion feeling through and through, right? That's what I really like about it, because you have to go to the destination. You go into the destination. It has mobs that match the destination, that your expectations. Like, it does a really solid job of that, and that reminds me a lot of what I like about Destiny's dungeons. And like I said, like I think that's something that you can't get easily. This game, Blessed Unleashed, will never have that, ever. Period. It will never have an immersive world, because from its foundation, it has shikabis and like random high fantasy monsters, which no one cares about ever. And so it literally can't be as immersive. And so that is my main issue. But for New World, that's not the issue, right? New World's issue is they need to get the fundamentals of, all right, you need to don't stand here. Like, you need to, reduce the healing. Like, the basics of, like, dodging mechanics and rolling out of the way, blocking an attack. Those are the things it really needs. And that's something that New World can fix. Blessed Unleashed cannot fix its immersion issue. It can't. It's not possible for it to do it. They'd have to release a whole nother game.
I'm super immersed when I play this game. I don't know. I feel completely the opposite of.
Would you say said. New World or Blessed Unleashed is more immersive?
It depends on what I'm doing. I think the Gathering in New World is way more immersive. Like the Gathering and just being in like the atmosphere and the music and stuff, they've done a better job. But when it comes to the combat in New World is not immersive at all. It's like the PvE. I think they did a very good job with PvP. And I think the time to kill is good, and like the balance is good. And overall, like if I'm fighting another player in New World, I'm very immersed. If I'm fighting mobs in New World, I'm literally watching Netflix on my other monitor. I couldn't possibly care about PvE in that game. And in Bless, I feel completely the opposite. I'm fully engaged when I'm PvEing in this game.
I feel like you're conflating two different ideas though there. Like the feeling and immersion of a world is not the same thing as the feeling of combat. Like, I would never describe combat in a video game as immersive, because I'm not using my real hands. I'm using a mouse and keyboard. So I feel like that fundamentally are like two different ideas.
What's your definition of immersion then? When I look at immersion as like, I'm in the game world and I look up at the clock and 3 hours have passed by and I'm shocked. Like, I felt like 5 minutes. That's immersion to me, when I lose myself in the game and I like forget about the real world and I'm in the game world, that's when I feel immersed. What's your definition?
So my definition of immersion would be a world that is believable. Like it's fundamentally believable. You can trick yourself into believing this could actually be on another planet somewhere in the universe, right? Like that's what I want to. That's what I feel like is like true immersion. In this game, where they have like, I don't know, like dinosaurs with tits on them and stuff like that. I can't imagine another universe.
Those are some sexy dinosaurs.
I cannot imagine another universe with that. That's not immersion. That's not immersive to me. The fact that I teleport around, everywhere I go, that's not immersive to me. And in a dungeon, dungeons in this game, like I'm just doing random dungeons with random modifiers. It's not like I know what these characters are or anything. But like in New World, you actually know the captain. He's the captain of your ship that your character came across the ocean on. Like you actually know who he is, and you're fighting.
Do you know any of the other bosses?
Yeah, the one that's in Ebonscale Reach. Basically, she works for the head evil guy who the captain got. The leader of the captain anyway.
I mean, the bosses in Bless are a part of the story too. It's Conrad and his minions, and it's Gideon and his people, and they're trying to summon the different gods. And like, the story's there. You might have skipped it, but I don't think there's any fundamental difference there.
It's just not immersive. It's the difference between saying something like Dungeons and Dragons is an immersive world as a topic, or like what would it be, like Lord of the Rings. Like Lord of the Rings is, I think most people would agree, it has a more immersive world. And like I think that's obviously if you have a good D&D campaign, that you could argue that. But I think that my point there is that they don't have a very good world in Bless Online or Bless Unleashed.
I love the world of this game. I think they've done a fantastic job. I think the zones, especially the later zones, are excellently designed. I definitely get like an old school theme park vibe just going through this game and finding new areas and leveling up. So I don't know. It's way different for me.
My litmus test for like immersion is after I've played the game for 30 minutes to an hour, can I stop and remember the name of an NPC and a city in the game? That's usually like and it sounds weird, but it's like if the world is immersive enough and interesting enough, I'm going to remember little things like that. But if not, and I feel really disconnected, I'm not. So for example, when I was playing with the Elion beta, right? Like after I'd played it for like 5 hours, I couldn't tell you the name of an NPC or city, right? So that doesn't really fall into the space of immersiveness for me personally. But on Bless, I didn't have that issue. So I would say that comparing those, like Elion to Bless, I had a more of a like immersion in New World, more so, not Bless, but you get what I'm saying.
Hey,
so I don't know.
Apparently, so I brought up earlier where Dank was getting this information. You've been invited to a 4-day confidential technical test. He's literally testing the game right now.
Oh,
whoa.
Yeah. Oh, confidential. Whoops.
How do you get that?
Not confidential anymore, buddy.
Yeah. Whoops.
Leaked.
I would like to respect their wishes on that, not to have that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Talked about.
Okay. So I guess that one thing that I said, but it seems that there's a couple of fixes, so we won't talk about things that are happening. But I didn't even know that there was a technical test, so hopefully knowledge of it being in existence isn't a bad thing.
Why do you think they're so secretive about shit like that?
I'll tell you, there is always a test going on. All right, that's what I'm going to say. There's always a test. There's never not a test.
So why does that need to be a secret? I
don't know.
Get it.
I don't know why they care so much. It's weird. They want to be secretive about strange things like that.
It's just so weird because you would think that like if you feel what you're doing is right and you feel like you're doing what's like something that's good, you feel like you would want to like the hype and publicity to build around a game that you have releasing in a month, right? Like if you're confident.
I mean, I understand why they don't want people like streaming the betas. I get that. I don't think it's a confidence thing. I think it's more of like I feel like Ashes of Creation is kind of the opposite right now, where they're so fucking transparent that by the time the game comes out, we're all already going to be bored of it. And so like I understand why they want to keep some of this stuff under NDA, but like the fact that a test is even occurring needs to be a secret. That like what is this, the CIA? Like what are you doing over there? Like I don't know, it seems so over the top to me.
Well,
it is.
What Destiny does is they actually have, I don't know what the department's called, but they have a department which basically pulls people off the street and has them sign an NDA, and then they go and play the game, and they'll send them down like a dungeon, and they're like, hey, go through this raid, and how do you do? All right, get another 5 people, test them like, hey, you guys go play the game, and they see what kind of problems they run into. And then they do that several times, and I think that's what they're probably doing. They're probably doing the same thing for New World, but instead of doing it with bringing people in and getting their feedback, they're probably just using these NDA tests, which I think is maybe because of COVID or maybe just because of bad design. I don't know.
Both.
Because every time I like learn more about New World, the more it just seems like they're just copying Destiny 2's format and then putting it into the game.
Of all the games to copy, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see.
I think to an extent it's good. It's fine to copy different aspects of another game that had success in it, within a certain degree, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I can kind of even see that in BDO a little bit nowadays, with like especially how they added like Chocobo porters to BDO this week and shit like that. So it's like,
that's why they're having.
Actually?
Yeah, they literally added the same
of all
system.
the things to copy.
That is actually what the issue is, because they copied combat from Dark Souls. They copied the MMO/design format of Destiny, like world building of Destiny, and they don't have somebody who's good enough to copy for combat, like the actual open world sandbox combat.
That's what I mean, man. Like they need the inspiration. They need someone who's actually going in and thinking about new and interesting ways to bring these systems alive, rather than just rehashing them under the Amazon skin. It's fascinating because like the Dark Souls combat MMO it's such an easy formula that's been sitting there the whole time, like begging to be picked up. And now somebody's finally doing it, and it doesn't actually have to be executed that well in order to be successful. So even if they half-ass it, like the game's still going to be pretty good because the formula is so obvious.
You know what I'm actually very excited for? I'm excited for all these MMOs that are coming out are action combat. Every single one of them. Elyon, Bless Unleashed, and New World. Like, I feel like from this point forward, we're just going to be getting action combat MMOs because that's going to be the standard. Like, that's what everybody's doing.
Thank God, bro.
Like, the days of tab targeting may be behind us.
Mm-hmm.
I hope. I hope so bad.
I hope so.
We'll see.
Like, I don't think it's going anywhere, but
the next 6 months is going to determine the rest of the fate of the genre for 10 years, man.
It actually is, unironically. Should we go into BDO real quick? Or did we even talk about everybody's week? I don't even remember now.
Well, I left you and Marlon out because you're just going to talk about that game.
Bless Unleashed.
He said that game.
So I was reading something. My bad.
So I guess we'll jump into Bless Unleashed first. Bless Unleashed.
Let's knock out BDO.
Yeah? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, let's knock out BDO.
Yeah, I keep hearing about there's like a class rework coming or something. What's going on with BDO?
So here's the TLDR, and we can talk about whichever one is you want. So Global Lab, and what they're adding is they're adding repairable kit that you can repair your Supreme or normal alchemy tools and cooking tools. so you don't have to replace those anymore. You buy them from a vendor, which I think is going to ruin the wood and the rough stone economy. So a little worried
Stone
about
for
that.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, what problem are they solving with that?
They're making
Jordan
it,
TV made so much money off of Stone
I,
because
so
of
I
that.
was kind of looking into it. I haven't tried it myself, but I was looking on a Reddit tab, or some people were trying to talk about it in Reddit, and apparently you have to use a tool to make the repair kit. So like you're still needing a steady supply of the kits. If the way I
Okay.
understand it is correctly, you just don't have to fill your house with 1,000 fucking kits anymore.
So
You
they're
can
just trying to make
repair.
it so that you can. I
okay.
see. You can basically
Yeah.
spin the new tool to heal the old one rather than having to
Yeah,
pick it
that's
up
the
and
way
put
I
it down.
understand. I
Okay,
could be
yeah,
wrong, but that's the way it makes sense to me.
That could be like a quality of life thing then.
bro. I actually been wanting that for a very long time. I was so upset about having to have a big house for efficient cooking. I was really didn't like it, bro. So I'm really happy about that change. And they're not ruining the economy. Okay, I'm happy. Let's go on. Filters for bartering. So you now have filters for bartering. You can now pick what tier material. It's a step in the right direction. I feel like bartering needs a lot more work than just a filter. But another quality of life.
Some day one shit, man. What that does is like people who like are like, oh, I gotta get into bartering, and then they like see all these massive lists and can't figure out where to go, and they just go, well, bartering's not for me. You know, that's just allowing people to have the patience to deal with.
The problem is
The
they
UI.
still have really bad UI design because you still have to click the bartering menu, then click the filter, then click the option that you want, and then you get what
Yeah.
you want. So it's still too many clicks to get to the actual design, but it is a good step in the right direction.
I don't know. I kind of fall on the other side of that spectrum where I don't think every single thing in the world has to be baby spoon fed to someone. That if someone cares enough about an activity, they'll dig a little bit into it and put some time in understanding it. But that doesn't make me right? Like that's just the way I think.
I think there's a happy medium.
It's a
Yeah.
It's a band-aid fix for a badly designed system. That's the honest truth about it. The majority of people don't like bartering. It takes way too much investment for way too little gain for a semi-AFK activity that's not really enjoyable. At least for your average player. There are people who do enjoy bartering, and more power to them if they're enjoying going out there and making, 100 mil an hour.
Dude, bartering's pretty nice, honestly.
You get this auto path in the game plays itself, and all you have to do is click 3 times every 15 minutes. So it's just another version of cooking, really, right? But I don't think it's very good. Between having parlay, bartering refreshes attached to the value pack, along with pay to win scrolls to give you extra parlay, on top of actually having to do dailies for the Caravel and the Karak, and then on top of that having to have the pay to win pet, the parrot, and all the boat gear. I mean, I don't know. It's just not for me, man. I don't know.
Well, when you put it like that,
sign me up.
when you just
I
pile
don't know,
it
dude.
on.
I would argue that bartering is one of the best systems they've added to the game in memorable history in terms of like life skilling, arguably.
I feel like bartering is the trading rework that we wanted. They just separated it from trading for some reason. But I actually think overall they knocked it out of the park when they added bartering. Where they failed with me is, trying to, when it came to the progression, like, you think I'm gonna do 60 days of dailies to make my carrot? Fuck you, dude. Absolutely no shot.
Yeah, it's just that's my main gripe with it is the bartering refreshes parlay and the dailies. It just feels like a daily simulator through and through. I mean, if it was the same exact system, but had like a random refresh times, or like it didn't have that limitations put on it, where I could go at my own pace and go 100 hours at it and just get my boat and stuff, I think it'd be much better for me, personally, at least. Anyway, bartering got filters, and that's kind of nice. They're on this huge train of quality life changes, and it's another one on the list.
They've been piecing together all the shredded NA feedback we've been giving them.
Oh, what
So
is this?
if whatever you've been asking for it hasn't happened yet, they just haven't found all the pieces in the shredder to get it back together yet. So
True.
just
They
hang tight.
definitely been paying attention to the Korean player base big time lately. They're still doing those like fireside chats, quote, where they do like the streams.
Such a weird thing to
talk to
call
them.
it.
It's so strange.
Yeah. but I mean, they've been implementing shit like within like a week turnaround. It's kind of crazy that like the Korean player base finally starts bitching and shit gets done. That's so weird.
Yeah, I've been through enough relationships in my life to know that if you get comfortable and used to that, you're just setting yourself up for further disappointment. This is a temporary fix to try to keep you interested. It won't last.
I don't know, dude. I've seen it with I've seen this kind of thing with a lot of games lately. I feel like a decent chunk of MMOs are kind of feeling like the need to capitalize on some WoW downfalls. I don't think it's just BDO.
Dude, I think we're in the MMO Renaissance right now. I think it finally happened.
Like I really do, because I think a decent.
How
chunk
dare
of
you
games are
say
doing
that? How dare you say that?
I think
like
it's
this
happening.
thing is so fragile. This thing is so fragile. By even speaking it, you could break it. You know what I mean?
If we see BDO,
honestly, shut the fuck up.
I think that with BDO,
we're far from that.
I think if BDO removes pay to win, that will be the first signal fire.
Well, there's
Renaissance.
no chance that's gonna happen. I mean,
I don't know. It depends on how desperate they get. You know, like
think about it though.
It's the biggest negative of the entire game.
Not from their perspective, bro. Though they fundamentally don't understand that, dude.
I can't complain about it because I have actively benefited from it. So I feel like it's kind of double standard if I complain about the concept of selling costumes if I myself partake in it. But it's like, you know, at this point it's kind of been engraved, and I think it's just about like maintaining the current level and not pushing it even further, I guess. But I don't know. BDO is kind of one of those things nowadays where it's like you already have your mindset and your opinion on the game, and like them changing a lot of stuff isn't. I don't know. Like are like all these changes they're doing? Is that making you guys wish you would come back to the game? Not, of course not, right?
Well,
exactly, because most people already
it's not
have their
last.
opinion.
No, that's not the reason, dude.
No,
it's because this should have been done years ago, and they're behind the curve.
It's not because it's not going to last. For me, it's too little, too late. I mean,
exactly. That's what I mean. Right? You already have your opinion. Well, it's not going to change.
They're going to fix the game now after 5 years. No, if they make a BDO 2, I'll play it. But I'm not going to come back to this version of the game. What the fuck are they going to do in this version of the game? I'm done.
They would have to do a massive. I'm talking about a massive update. I think I talked more about this off stream or something, because I faintly remember talking about this. But basically, I would have to have them see like fix time to kill, healing, fix the number of CCs, super armors, iframes.
Oh god, way more, even more than that, right?
Fix how the karma system works. Fix siege, which they are technically kind of working on. Like they'd have to do all of that, and then on top of that, also announce some type of new like PvP mode to replace Red Battlefield. And I mean, like, they rip Red Battlefield out of the world, they put something else new in, and they're like, we're trying to do something better, we're going to work on it, we're trying something crazy, we want people to try our game again. And it would have to be something, like, really over the top like that.
Yeah,
and
BDO too.
Yeah, they have to make a sequel. There's no way they could...
You're describing BDO too.
Here's what they need to do. Take BDO mobile and turn it into a PC game.
Yes!
I will play that.
Yes,
yeah,
but
the problem is that no one will trust BDO 2 because BDO came out and was awesome, and 5 years later they ruined it.
I'll still
BDO
take the year.
Was very successful, man. That's how they're coming up with all these other new games. I mean, they made billions off of BDO.
Yeah,
they went from being nobodies to being one of the biggest companies in the world.
I'm not going to trust them on a BDO 2 when they literally drove their game into the dust for 5 years.
The way I will see it is that I don't think a BDO 2 is coming for the same reason there is no Grand Theft Auto 6 and there is no new Elder Scrolls, because if you're already making a shit ton of money from your current one, you don't have any incentive to make another one.
True.
I mean, they could have come out with Grand Theft Auto 6 forever ago, but they're still killing it just recycling old Grand Theft Auto 5 shit. Same with Skyrim, right? Just re-release Skyrim every 5 months. You don't have to come out with a new Elder Scrolls. So like I don't think they're gonna come out with a new BDO 2 because though like the problems are more so for us in-game players, like more so than the new player. Because they probably have the most amount of people playing right now as like a revolving door than ever. Like the game is full of people. It's more so just their end game population that's more suffering than anything. The people that have been playing long.
The overall population is suffering too. The like overall roller coaster of population is getting a lot more volatile. So a new class comes out and the population gets a huge spike and then it massively tanks a month later.
Life support. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean they are overall, I think the game is slowly dying, but very slowly. Like they can keep it on life support by releasing a new class every 3 months for years and years to come. So so you're right, they don't have to make a sequel, but like BDO Mobile made 5 times more money than PC. So saying that there's not an opportunity to make more money, of course there is. If they make a better game, yeah, it'll cannibalize BDO 1, but they could make the game in such a way that it's way more profitable even if the original dies as a result. They just,
So it seems
I'm more so just saying that you can't. That there's just no financial incentive for them to, like, for example, let's think of like
Mobile made way more than PC though, dude.
Yeah, but
I mean, true, but like that's just
trust.
like saying that they don't have to make another BDO 2. They can literally just make another underage waifu simulator and sell gacha and make millions.
All right, I got
if
a
not
question.
hundreds of millions. Like I think that's just a mobile thing, right?
I got a question. If you knew BDO 2 was going to be as pay to win as BDO, would you play it?
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, BDO Mobile was way more pay to win, and I had a fucking blast for 6 months until we got
more pay to win?
Pay gated it. It wasn't even the pay to win. It was the pay to progress. It was the mandatory
wallet check.
You have to pay to even play the game that ruined it. People were always paying to win. From day one in BDO, or in BDO Mobile, you could pull out your wallet and become 10 times stronger than the next best person. So it was always extremely pay to win from the first 5 minutes. It was what actually killed the game was it got to a point where you could not progress unless you spent $100 a week on upgrading your gear.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with no. I wouldn't play BDO 2 if it was as pay to win as BDO currently is. What I would do is play the fuck out of BDO Classic.
They might do that. There's more and more games doing Classic, right?
I think they'll do it. Just because
God, I hope
they already
do.
they have the game code for it already. But they released the same old game code years later on console. Like they have it already. They'll just release it and be like, "Oh, look."
They're not smart enough for that. They're too focused on other things.
They're going to just copy WoW. They've been copying what WoW's been doing for dailies and all this for years now in BDO.
Yeah.
They're 100% just going to see WoW Classic and be like, "All right, look, our numbers are starting to dip a little bit this year. Time to release BDO Classic." Oh!
I don't care how they get to it as long as they do.
And then they're just a couple of years behind where World of Warcraft is as far as their like life cycle of their game.
Well, wait, so someone that keeps telling me that there's like class reworks coming. I'm actually kind of interested. Is that a thing?
Yes.
Like, is that thing overhyped?
They started. So basically, they're rebooting the first 17 classes, all the classes up to Archer, including Archer.
Only the first 17.
Yeah, they're getting a quote reboot. So they're adding new skills to them.
The first 17 classes is the funniest fucking phrase I've heard in weeks, dude.
I mean, we got like 25 classes now, 24 classes. It's fucking crazy, dude.
As a previous sorceress okay, so you don't main sorceress anymore, but they've got to be on suicide watch over this, right? There's no way they come out of this better.
So they showed some video. They showed a video of the warrior and the ranger one last night, and it looks pretty sick for Succession Warrior. Succession Warrior actually looks pretty dope with the changes. They gave him like new ways to engage. And I saw they added like 2 or 3 new abilities. I can link the video in the chat.
I thought they were only
shouldn't they
doing
nerf
Awakening.
it after Moreland showed how insane it was and how he's the #1 Succession Warrior of all time?
I thought they were doing
They
only
made it
Awakening.
better?
No, it's Succession too. You can see it in the video. They show Succession first and they show Awakening.
You know what they
For
could do
both.
to make me play BDO again? Delete Succession.
Yeah, I would try it out again.
All right, so
Yeah.
oh wait, wrong Discord. Hold up. All right, so
I know
linked
that
them
I know
in
that
the
doesn't
chat.
play well for your low FPS warrior play, Marlon, but I still stand by it.
There they go. But yeah, the Succession Warrior looks fucking sick, dude. With the reboot.
All right, I'm gonna watch this and see if I feel anything.
It looks fucking sick.
I don't know how to pull this up.
Looks the same. Oh, it looks very BDO mobile is what it looks. Holy shit.
Looks sick, dude.
Bro, this is BDO mobile. What are they turning this game into, dude? What is happening?
They said their goal was to release them on Global Lab one at a time, and then release them worldwide when they're all done.
Yeah, all
I'm
in one patch.
So glad don't have it. I'm not playing this. Oh, now it's the Awakening. The rework for Reckless Blow is to be able to cast it twice.
They also fixed the iframe in between slashing and grave digging. Or not the iframe, but the gap in the super armor. So it's all one fluid protected motion, which is one of the things I've seen a lot of people complain about.
Why are they reworking Awakened Warrior?
So they wanted to reduce FPS reliance and the need for so many animation cancels. So they're kind of trying to dumb some things down more so.
Okay.
So they're ruining the class.
I don't know.
No. That's a bad take.
I don't think that's a good take because you got to think, right? You got these new busted classes that don't really have to animation cancel like anything and still perform crazy. Whereas a lot of old classes, you have to do so many animation cancel just for your basic necessities. I think it's fine. It's depending on how they do it, right? As long as they don't change something core.
Yeah, they're still doing a bunch of animation cancels even in the Awakening preview here.
Can they show us this stuff without screen shake?
Yeah, I wish, dude.
Hello?
I wish they still do that screen shake shit for all their videos.
All right, I finally got the videos here.
Oh, good. Pre-Awakened Ranger is doubled down on shotgun spam.
Ranger can do back attacks now with from range, which is kind of fucking insane. Actually, like that's gonna be crazy.
Time Bomb's so happy.
Like that's gonna be a very massive change.
Bro, Succession looks so much better.
Succession looks like you're playing BDO mobile on Warrior.
Wow, the animations go off so much quicker now.
Man,
Did they speed up this video by 10 or 20% or something? This looks crazy.
Oh, not this again. Come on.
They're probably just using 5 attack speed for once.
You're right about it with Coursera. You were right about it with Coursera, but I don't know if that's something they're going to keep doing.
This is ludicrously fast. Why are they running at it?
Speed up the video for Corsair.
I mean, hasn't Warrior always been like ludicrously fast though? Like
maybe this guy is watching a YouTube video for the streamable at like ×2 speed or something because holy smokes.
What,
wait, for Warrior or for Ranger?
The Warrior one.
I know, the Warrior one looks totally normal to me.
It's fine.
Dude, Warrior always be zooming, bro. But I think, what do you think, Moreland? Like, this Succession looks pretty sick, right? Like,
so here's my problem, dude. Like, it's the same thing as when a new class comes out. If they rework Warrior and they do a fantastic job, and I log back into that game, I'm gonna have fun for 2 days. I'm gonna figure it out, and then what am I gonna do? I'm gonna go to fucking Abandoned Monastery or Red Monastery or whatever it's called, and I'm gonna fucking kill mobs and go in a circle. And
no, you log out and play another game
for my next fucking pin accessory. Like, it's still the same fundamentally boring, dumb shit that I've been doing for years and years. So, like, it's the same. They can't just keep releasing new classes or patching old classes with more particle effects, and like, it's just not going to be enough, man.
You log in for 2 days and log out.
Maybe I will log in for 2 days and log out. It's so hard for me to get excited over anything in that game.
He's only saying that to shut you up. He's not going to do that.
He's not, dude. I know he's not.
Okay.
I can't get him to play Final Fantasy 14 with me. There's no fucking way he's getting on BDO, dude.
What are you talking about? I'm totally going to play 14. I'm probably going to play it this week.
Good.
Good. I'll take some time to catch up.
14's actually
shit with you.
fun. 14 is actually a game I think about when I'm not playing it. I think about like, oh shit, I'm like, falling behind in triple triad tournaments. I got shit I need to do. I don't feel like that at all in BDO, man. What the fuck do I have to do in BDO?
I mean, been there, done that. As far as the BDO stuff goes, I 100% agree. They need a new grind in the game, something that people get motivated for. I mean, it can be similar in nature, right? But I mean, there has to be something new to go for, and I don't want my old progression to be deleted. Like
so I agree as well. So I finally got around to doing the dungeon that they added. And I actually enjoyed it. Weirdly enough, I actually enjoyed it. Like, kind of, it was. I didn't get the same experience where it's like nobody knows the puzzles, so it's like my party let me sit there and flounder around with the puzzles for a while until like my brain. I was like, "Fuck, dude!" I was like, "All right, just do it, damn it," because I didn't want to hold everybody up. But like, it was pretty fun, dude, and like I enjoyed it. And the boss had these like pretty sick mechanics. And it's something that I didn't really like. I haven't experienced in BDO before, so it's like the rewards were, the rewards were kind of. I didn't get crazy good rewards, but like I enjoyed it. So it's like it kind of gave me a little bit of confidence in that I will enjoy the second dungeon that comes out as well, as long as I don't have to wait 2 months to receive it like the last one did.
Good for you.
Would you say the dungeon is something everybody would enjoy doing one time or multiple times, or how much can someone do the same dungeon and enjoy it?
I mean, I personally feel that I could enjoy doing it multiple times. It's more so that they follow that old freaking shit where like you can only run the dungeon twice a week, and you have to do it on 2 separate characters for each run. So there is that like limitation there of like not being spammable. But like I see it more so for like the long-term picture where it's like, okay, you hop on one time throughout like in the week, and then like you and your static group of homies shoot the shit in Discord, and you run the 4 dungeons in like the span of like 3 hours, and then you go do something else. Like I think that's a good thing, or at least that's something that they're working towards. I like it. I don't know. I actually enjoyed it, which is something that I haven't been able to say about a lot of the activities that they've added in a long time. But I actually enjoyed the dungeon, which was pretty fun. And like the boss, the boss has these pretty crazy, pretty cool mechanics. I don't want to like spoil it, but
oh, you can definitely spoil it. I don't think.
Oh, so you don't care? Okay, so when you get into the boss, right? There's like 2 bosses that are spawning, and you have to split them away from each other, and you have to get their HP to 50% around the same time. So that part right there, that isn't very intuitive. But once that happened, they end up merging together, and then you kind of just tank and smack the boss. Well, after his health reaches a certain threshold, these like color spirits start spawning, and you have to tether yourself to these different spirits and take them to the corresponding matching pylons, which sounds kind of weird trying to explain it and trying to visualize it, but it was actually pretty fun and hectic actually. And then the final boss, when you're doing the final push for it, he does this mechanic where he like spews out this lava that stays where it places it. So you have to like be smart about where you're pulling him, because otherwise the entire room will fill with lava and you'll all die. I mean, it was pretty. I enjoyed it, dude. Okay. Fuck it, dude. I'll say I actually enjoyed something in BDO for the first time in a while, damn it. And it was actually pretty fun, weirdly enough. So it's
how
like,
do we mute him?
I don't know.
Dude, you're out of here. That's
fuck you, Tim. So yeah, I don't know. So it kind of made me a little looking forward to the second dungeon coming out, so that I can get that experience of like, whoa, like actually being able to figure out the puzzles day one with everybody else, as long as Korea doesn't get it 2 months before us like they did last time, which they probably
will. Well, you only get the last one. The last one's the only one that's coming out at the same time, right? So
I want to know what lessons they learned from the first dungeon, and like what lessons they've learned from like looking at New World and Bless Unleashed, and like see if they take any of those lessons and apply them to the Water Dungeon. I kind of assume the Water Dungeon is mostly complete already, right? But I think they might be able to take some, like, I want to know about the loot. If they do, because I think they're going to probably change the loot a little bit in the next one. And I think that's going to be the main driver. Is they're going to see Bust Unleashed do this, New World do it, and I think there might be a little bit of loot in there to entice people to go into that next dungeon.
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it, it's probably going to get. I mean, you would think that as the dungeon difficulty goes up and up with each one, like they said it would, that the rewards would get better. And the first one's pretty cool because when you do it the first time, you're guaranteed to get like 100 stack and like the new Disto equivalent earrings, which are like max price on the marketplace. I mean, it's pretty fun. I mean, it's pretty cool, I guess, right? And then after that, like you get these RNG reward boxes. You trade 20k agris for your clear. That's like the currency you spend to get to count for your clear once you kill the end boss after doing the puzzles and stuff. So I liked it. I enjoyed it, actually, weirdly enough. It's just that I'm waiting to see what the bigger picture is when they come out with the other ones and see. It's like I could see it as being something where you get in the Discord with a group of homies and you guys just pound out the dungeons once a week in like a 3-hour period and just, I don't know, kind of have fun, I guess.
You know what would bring me back to that game? Fucking
What?
An endless dungeon. Just an endless dungeon.
That should be coming pretty soon.
We're still waiting for that. Yeah, they haven't said anything else about it in like 2 months, but they're supposed to be having that, right? The one that's underwater that like construes your vision and you have to like make decisions going different areas, and if you die, you lose your loot, and you can decide whether you keep going and stuff.
Yeah, that could be fun.
Yeah, you just can't trust that kind of stuff. You can't trust when they say that stuff because they say it all the time. It gets canceled.
Gotta see it first.
Thornwood.
Yeah, they have made a few more updates on it. So
On what?
On the Sea Dungeon, they made a mention of it recently.
Yeah, they did that with Thornwood too.
So they did this weird thing where they the Sea Dungeon, they implemented into Global Labs, but you can't run it on Global Labs until they implement it on live server. And I don't understand why they do that, whether they put it there and give certain people special access to it or what. But yeah, when they put it on the Global Labs, they said that you wouldn't be able to access it on Global Labs until it hits live, which was
I need to watch Chris Pauly then. They probably data mined everything.
True.
Chris Pauly is the man to watch about data mine stuff. I'll have to look that up and we'll follow up on that next week for sure. What else did they do?
So the stuff about the infinite pot, right? The infinite pot changes and such.
Did we talk about that last week? I don't remember if we did.
We didn't podcast last week.
Or the week before last. I think they were on Global Lab, but they're on live now, right?
No. They're still like not on live yet. But basically, so what they did was they made it so that that you can get one infinite pot piece and it will function like a gimped version of the completed infinite pot. And they're making it so that there's a bad luck protection for the infinite pot.
Wait,
there's a bad luck protection for the infinite pot, sort of like the Orzeka leaves, right? Where it's like you can grind for the 100 drop.
Finally, dude.
You can grind for 100 drops.
600 hours in, now they add that shit.
Yeah, and they haven't really expounded upon the concept of being able to use one infinite pot piece as like a nerfed version of the infinite pot, but they said something about doing something to the completed pot so that people that grinded it out originally or before they implement that change get something.
Well, I have 2 pieces extra right now, and I have 1 mana and 1 HP. I feel like it works fine how it is, and they probably shouldn't change what's not broken.
Right.
I think that all rare drops in this game should have bad RNG protection. I might be in the minority on that, but I like the bad RNG protection just because it's like one of those. It's like with the Orzeka, right? If you want the La Orzeka outfit, you grind Oluns. And you either get 100 leaves or you get a straight drop lung. So you still have that straight drop chance, but it's like if you have the worst of RNG, it's going to take you 60 hours, right, to get it because you're going to collect the leaves. Whereas if you have good RNG, you can get it in an hour, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's literally a fail stack. Every part of the game needs it. When you have these extreme forms of RNG where, 10 to 20% of the population is just going to get fucked for literally years, of course you have to put some sort of failsafe in.
Not when it's been in the game for years. It's too late to change it, man. I think
No, they can't just keep it
Wrong,
shitty just
dude.
because it's been shitty. They've got to fix it.
I so
That game-
disagree with that.
That's like the mentality of so many things in that game. Because it's been shitty for so long, we can't fix it. That's the opposite of how they need to be looking at things. They need to just suck it up and make the game better. And if people who grinded 2 years ago get mad, I'm sorry, but the game can't just stay in that shitty state forever.
No, I don't think it's a holistic idea, but with the pot potion, that's such an achievement because it's been like that for so long. I mean, that's literally power creep. It's literally power creep.
And you don't need it either. It's like you can just buy them from the vendor and just have them in your inventory. You don't need it. And on top of that, they made the vendor ones like lighter. They're already super cheap. It's just literally just something you go for prestige. So
but that's the thing though. It's like I think that just because you had it shitty doesn't mean everybody else has to have it completely shitty.
Exactly.
Like think about it, like even
I
Big
agree
and
with
Shiny
that.
himself, bro. This man spent years grinding for his compass, which he finally got like 2 months ago, and he still advocates for them to add a bad RNG protection.
I have
system.
That's because he experienced what it was like to not have that.
Exactly, dude.
No one would. I don't think anyone's arguing with the fact of bad RNG protection, right? I don't think anyone would argue with that. I think bad RNG protection, as long as it takes longer than what it's supposed to take grinding, I think no one has an issue with that, right? Like, for example, let's say the potion piece takes 150 hours to grind for a potion on average. I don't know what it really is, but say it's 150 hours.
I think it's closer to 60, but
so if let's say like if it's maybe it takes 450 hours and that's like the failsafe, right? Then no one's going to complain about it. The problem is if the failsafe is easier than the good luck, right? And you basically make it easier to grind now than it used to be. That's the problem. A failsafe.
Yeah, I don't think the main source of getting it should be the leaves, right? Like 80% of people should get the straight drop, whether that's 200 hours or whatever. But if you grind for fucking 500 hours and you still don't have it, then yeah, eventually you get it for free. Like that's how the system should work. It's not that it replaces the regular drop. It's a fail safe for the people in the bottom 20% of the bell curve.
Like obviously they're going to have to get to this point where they find out like a sweet spot, right? Like we're not saying that you should be able to grind for the infinite pot for 20 hours and get it, but it's like if they structure the drop rate for the individual like fragments to make the pot piece to the point where it's like, okay, you average 1 per hour. Like I think just having a light at the end of the tunnel so you know that, okay, if I have the absolute worst luck, I'm still going to get it within 120 hours for that piece. I think that's a really good thing, dude.
It's so irrelevant, though, and it's something that a lot of people have spent a lot of time on, and that I don't think they should change it. It's been like this forever. I
don't think it's irrelevant,
argument,
though. Like being able to keep your potion at 99% forever is a huge increase to tankiness. No matter like,
but
I would say over increasing your DP.
You can do that without the infinite potion, though. You can do it
without the infinite potion, yes, but it's like so that's
all you have to do is spend $200 on max weight, and then you can carry enough potions for a full.
They reduced the weight of potions. It's not an argument. They reduced the weight of potions.
No, it's not an argument. It's definitely an argument.
When did they reduce the weight of potions?
They cut it in half like 3 weeks ago,
or something.
Yeah, you can carry a whole bunch of them.
Okay, so you only have to spend $100 instead of $200 on weight, and now you're competitive. You don't need the infinite pot.
I think that they should just keep it the way it is, but moving forward, they should definitely have that like RNG fail-safe thing. I think they should have had that,
dude. That's the same concept of these people that are like, yo, you can't make college affordable now because I got fucked by student loans. Why would I want everybody else to get
that's not even close
fucked by student loans? It's literally the same concept.
No, it's not.
It's not exactly the same.
I mean, it's not exactly the same, but it's the ideology that it's like, okay, this has been this way forever. Why should we change it? Like it was hard for me, and I put in the time when it was super hard, so I don't want everybody else to have to struggle for it.
Now, I kind of see what Tim is saying, because there's some stuff that they do, like with leveling. Every time, do you remember when like the thing in BDO was every 8 months, they would just like cut the amount of time that you needed to level in half? And they did that over and over again in the first 3 years of the game. And so people would grind to level 63, and then a month later it'd be like, oh, by the way, everyone can get level 63 in like 2 months of grinding now. So that 3 years of work you did doesn't fucking matter. Like that kind of thing, I think ruins the game. But the infinite potion, like putting in a failsafe so that people who grind it an absurd amount of hours, like you're saying, it's an achievement to have this potion. If you got it in 200 hours and someone else is grinding for 400 hours and they don't have it, what is that's not an achievement. Like the person put in twice as much work as you. Eventually there needs to be a mechanic that just gives them the fucking item. Like, in regards to their colossally
We're just
bad
saying
RNG.
there needs to be a light at the end of the tunnel. Whether that light, they could fucking make it 500 hours. Something where it's like, it doesn't even, like, you're never going to get the pot by completing the 100 points or the 100
There's allowed to be something.
But there needs to be a light at the end of the tunnel, bro.
There's allowed to be something that's hard to get, inachievable, right? And it's not something. It's not like you can't have potions because of this.
Yeah,
it's a
but dude,
luxury item.
that ideology is the same reason they implement stupid shit like the T10 horse, where you could literally click once every 2 weeks with a 3% success rate and click on it for 3 years and never get it just because you have bad RNG. It's the same concept.
No.
What do you mean?
But because listen, Kerr, calm down, deep breath.
I'm so confused, bro. Like, I'm
like
baffled.
because they've stopped doing this. Hold on, Potion. They stopped doing it, right? All these new costumes, all the new grinding things have the fail save. And so just let this one thing be like this one outlaying thing and just never do it again.
There's literally only one item that has a fail safe. It's the Orzeka.
And the flame.
No, the other stuff, the flame has it. They've been adding fail safes for all the new, Omega drops.
Well, the Orzeka and the flame, yes. But like the compass, the map, the potion, all this stuff, nothing else.
Those are coming. Those are coming. The fail safes are coming.
I
agree. I agree that they shouldn't give it to some. Like, you shouldn't be given something for not working for it. I agree. But what I'm saying is that there needs to be a fail safe so that the guy is spending the, like Morse said, the 20% that's spending 500 plus hours on something that on average should only take you 100 hours. Don't just get absolutely railed, even if you make it twice as rough.
Moving forward, I completely agree with you. Retroactively, I disagree. Because even people like Joe and Kugels and all these people that have put in years of grinding and they didn't give up. They got it. And it's a worthless item to get that fucking map. It doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter. They're never going to use it. Or if they do, it's once in a while. It doesn't matter. They did it to do it. And so if you give people a failsafe to get that, that's fucked. That's fucked. Moving forward, set it up the way where they can have a failsafe, and they have been doing that. But doing it retroactively is a spit in the face to some of the hardest grinders in this game.
No,
and they should
true.
absolutely. They don't. If you didn't get it, you don't deserve it.
Dude.
I want to explain, because you guys are talking about two different issues and talking past each other. So I want to basically like make this obvious. A failsafe does not make the grind easier. A proper failsafe makes it where
exactly.
Yeah, it does not make the grind easier. It does not make a proper failsafe does not make it easier. It protects against extreme bad RNG, because if you have a 100-hour grind,
preach.
If you have a 100-hour grind,
wrong.
Let me finish.
Wrong.
If you have a
timeline where Potion is the voice of reason.
If you have a 100-hour grind, one person will be a 10,000-hour grind to get the item, and that's fucked. That is not reasonable. That's not good game design. That's not fun. Tim Allen has been out there for 10,000 hours. He still hasn't got it. There should be a failsafe against that. Someone else goes there, they get it in 1 hour. All right. And so
that is
and your logic is, well, because the person you got in the person who's spent 10,000 hours doesn't deserve it, because the guy who got it in 1 hour he's just built different. All right, and it's such a bad logic, bro.
They didn't lie to you about what it was going to be. You know it's going to be a grind going into it. You know that. And just like years later, they're like, "Oh, sorry,
Tim, you know what?
Let's put this in. So if you put in your 100 hours, you can have this item."
You know what? You're right.
That's literally.
You're
communism.
right, Tim. You're right. You failed 60 times on Tet Blackstar, and you should have failed 60 times because you're just built different. All right, and they should never have any type of failsafe for your bad RNG or anyone else's bad RNG on the other side of the spectrum.
Well, they should have made him click his black star on 0 fail stacks, and they shouldn't have ever let the stat go up the more he failed.
I don't know, bro.
Then he
like,
would. Dude, fail stacks are soft. Fail stacks are for Care Bears.
But if I knew that going into the entire thing, then I would have known it, right? It is what it is.
You did know it. We told you what the RNG chance of it was.
I was mad about it because I got fucked on RNG. I was at the bottom of the bell curve. But I did what I had to do to work around it because that's how it is.
Yeah, you quit the game.
Oh, they should. I did not quit the game because of my Tet Black Star. That's specious, intoxicant, you know
it. True.
I didn't go crying about my Tet Black Star.
Couldn't get Tet Black Star,
because I got it on the back end. I was successful elsewhere. I one-tapped my Pride Duo and Try Dead God, and I was extremely happy about that, where I was upset about my Tet. This is a specious argument. It doesn't make sense. I didn't grind for the map or the compass or the potion piece because there was no failsafe, and I didn't want to get involved in that. It didn't seem worth it for being on the bottom of that bell curve. But all the people that did and spent years doing it deserve to have that. And we're not talking about Tet Black Star.
They're going to get like a title or something. Yeah, they're going to give him a title, dude. It'll be fine.
I don't know.
I don't think it should be retroactive.
I just don't like the idea that you shouldn't go back and change things just because that's the way they've been.
I just don't think it should be retroactive, especially with items that.
Because it's like, dude, we shit on them for not fixing shit and changing shit, but then when they fix it, we can't like have.
Now,
we can't.
I thought the potion piece grind was always great. I always thought that was a really cool thing. Like, hey, when all else fucking bores you, or if you're new to the game, somebody who's new to the game, one of the first things I'd recommend is go grind out the potion piece. It'll put you ahead as far as your effective health, and it'll be decent per hour while you're doing it, and you'll get an affinity for the game and the grind. And if you burn out during that, you're probably going to be fucked through the whole thing. I thought the way they developed and designed the potion piece specifically is a good idea.
All right.
Even though it is and can be punishing, so is BDO.
Now I'm going to take Tim's argument. Now that everything's right on the podcast and everybody has first, I'm going to take Tim's side on the argument. I want to explain Tim's side. All right, the way they're implementing this failsafe is completely terrible. It should not be leaf drops. It should be behind the scenes. After you've spent like 500 hours, they should give you like a 5% chance of dropping it higher or something. And that would be a much better way of it happening, because then you still spent the time of putting it in. This leaf system makes it easier for new people, which is far worse. Because it should not be easier for new people to do it. It should just be a fail-safe for people who are spending a lot of time in the game.
I think a better example of what's going on here is if we said that the new fail stacking system where you can turn in stones for a 30 stack, that shouldn't be added retroactively because of all the people who fail stacked for 90,000 hours getting their gear up. Like, isn't it just another catch-up mechanic? Doesn't it just invalidate the progress? Every time there's a new item or a new area that's 400 mil an hour instead of 300 mil an hour, anytime anything in the game becomes easier or better, it invalidates progress that people have made before. That's exactly
why you guys so black and white?
But this is the thing, though. You don't understand is that no one's saying make it easier. We're talking about mathematically using the percentages that the item dropped. You could calculate how many hours it would take the average person to get the item, and then you tailor that to the drop rate of the fail stack of the fail safe item, so that you're still having to grind a long time. There's just a light at the end of the tunnel.
So Tim, you think that some percentage of people, no matter how much effort they put in, if they grind for the potion piece every day for years and years, and they don't get it, then they should just get fucked.
Otherwise, the item is literally free.
That's an interesting thing.
But it's not literally free. You're still putting in hundreds of hours. It's not free.
That is free. Time is free, especially with these people, right? Especially with MMO.
Time is literally the only thing in this world that you have a finite amount of. What do you mean it's free?
It's free within the constructs of an MMO, right? You spend time in this game.
Time is literally the only construct that you have a limited amount of in this world. What do you mean?
We're not getting metaphysical here. We're talking about a video game.
I'm going to need mushrooms to continue this discussion.
Right. So all I'm saying is that there's items that should be rare. You know what I mean? They should be.
All right.
Not everybody should get them. It shouldn't be like set 80 hours on your clock and then you can have this item. Let me finish real quick. I think that some people at the bottom of the bell curve should not get that item no matter how bad they want it. And there's 3 items in the game.
Why
and 2
though?
of them
Why?
don't matter,
Why do you
one of them
think
kinda
that
does.
hard effort?
Do we
shouldn't
really need to
equal
rehash why? We
Why?
understand why. Here's what it comes down to. Tim, literally no one agrees with you. We've all said our piece.
don't care.
It's fine. Let's move on to something else now.
That's fair. I'd like to talk about the skin sometime. Maybe off podcast.
There's no way that you guys are going to reconcile your views here.
I'm just curious why Tim thinks there should
Giving
be
everybody
some
It's
giving
not a
every item is
mystery. Everyone
bullshit.
understands
It's so
the other
bullshit.
person's view here.
No, I don't understand why Tim why he thinks that 5% people never getting the item is okay.
I should be able to get something that you can't get for whatever reason, whether it's time, status,
Random
personality, anything. There should be, especially in a game that is so drenched in RNG. If you get fucked by RNG on this, you're going to get rewarded on that. That's just how it is.
It's kind of like
chaos
how some
is
people
fair.
are born. Some people are born into like wealthy families, and some people are born into like
No,
horrible
it's
situations.
not.
You know,
But it's
That's
not
not
even
even
like you're
close.
putting in the time for it and earned it.
Listen,
You went to a
chaos is
spot for
fair.
2 hours and you got it, where another guy grinded for 400 hours and never got it.
And they had
that
the
doesn't mean
same
you
chance.
fucking deserve it. That just means you literally got like given to you. If
I
anything,
should
you
be
would have
able
been
to
worse.
grow up.
Chaos is
'Cause you didn't
fair.
earn it.
Chaos is fair. I have the same chance of getting it that you do, as far as we know.
I
right?
had the same chance of being raised in Malibu as everyone else who,
Why
know,
are you
had to
guys
live in
making
You're
like
literally the
Tasmania.
reason. You're really the reason that people have this like bullshit perpetual idea that the American dream is actually real and alive when it's not.
Whoa, what?
literally the same
I'm talking about a
concept, bro.
video game. Holy shit.
We're
All right,
talking
just
about your
saying.
ideology of like you want.
Everybody,
You
no,
think
I'm
that
not.
some
I'm
people
talking
should
about
never
the
have
fucking
access to
potion
something that you
piece.
have access because you get lucky and get an item when someone
No.
else puts in more
No
time
reason.
and effort for you for no reason? I'm so confused.
Okay. I'm sorry you're bringing like upbringing and shit into this, but like we can't control where or how we are born into. But what there is a finite chance of is when you and I log on to BDO and we grind for a potion piece, we have exactly the same chance of getting it as everybody else.
No, that's not true.
Yes, it literally is.
No.
There is a finite drop rate, okay?
Nope. Finite.
Whether you use loot scrolls or whatever.
A percentage odds, right? There's a percentage chance that you get born into a wealthy family. There's also a percentage chance that you don't get
I'm not
born into a
talking
wealthy
about
family.
that. I'm not talking about that.
And
I'm
in
leaving that
BDO,
entire
there's a
thing out.
percentage chance you grind for the first hour and you get the potion piece, and there's a chance you grind for 2,000 hours and you don't get one.
Because potion, there is a finite drop rate that everybody abides by. You can get extremely lucky and get it in the first hour. You can get normally lucky and get it when you're supposed to, and you can be the bottom of the bell curve. But it's all finite. It's all written into the code of the game.
There's
Everybody
no
who logs
finite
on
about it.
has the same chance, and if you get fucked, that's the hand that you're dealt, and that's that.
Yeah,
It's
but that's a
fucking
random.
video game.
That's a random number in a computer. So I just get
Fair.
screwed by a random number in a
It's
computer.
the definition of fair. It's the definition of fair.
That's not fair at all. What's fair about
No,
you?
it's
What's
literally the
fair about me
definition.
one tapping my pin dandy and you taking 100 attempts? That's fair.
We have the same chance.
All right. How about
of
this? How about this? How about this? You give me $1,000. I give you $0. That's fair.
There's no. That's
fair.
not. That's specious.
That's fair.
What? What are you even talking about? You're not even on the same plane of what I'm talking about. When we log on, every mob you kill, you have 0.0075% chance of getting the item, right? That's what
No.
you have.
Well, okay, so technically, if fatalism is true and everything that happens must have happened, that means that your potion piece drop was predetermined before you even installed the game. So in that sense, everyone
God.
doesn't actually have the same chance of getting the item.
I
Some
I
people
like
are
this.
predestined. Some people are predestined by the universe or fate or whatever you want to call
This
it. who have
isn't
never gotten a
metaphysical.
potion piece.
Stop trying to make
No
this
matter what they do.
metaphysical.
This is why you
This
don't have
isn't
the potion.
metaphysical.
I'm not being metaphysical. I'm being
This
very,
Yes,
very
that your
practical here.
definition of being metaphysical. When
I
you
don't think so.
every mob you kill, you have 0.0075 or whatever it is percent chance to get it.
Still wrong.
Everybody does. That's it.
And
That's it.
this is why you don't have the map. Or the compass?
I actually have 2 out of the 4 pieces of the map.
Well, you
I
don't
just
have it though.
didn't want to grind.
That's not the complete map.
I've never grind. The only reason I have it is because those were the places to grind when I was grinding.
Well, because you weren't destined to get it.
Why are you upset about my take on this?
This
so
is the most
weird.
emotional I've ever seen you guys get, and it's over the
Bro.
dumbest fucking thing we've ever talked about.
It's amazing, honestly.
Bro, it's
I love how loaded this is.
Well, it's just crazy to
You guys are
think,
making it
though.
loaded.
Like, I just never thought I'd see the day where I meet someone where somebody would literally say that, yeah, it's like if this guy spent 500 hours and never got it, he doesn't deserve it. Even though I spent 2 hours and I had it given to me, like he didn't earn it, even though he put in 500 hours. Like I just can't.
If you don't get it,
fathom
you don't.
someone
if you don't
taking
get it, you
that
don't
To
get it.
deserve something, really.
Right.
All
It's
right.
not deserving. We all go into this crucible. We know the odds. You either get it or you don't. If you want to complain that somebody got it before you, I could be fucked to even hear that, right? You either want it bad enough to grind it until you get it, or you give up. But just putting something in 5 years afterwards so everybody can have their little piece is fucking soft, and I hate it.
I'm looking forward to this because in New
But
World,
moving
I
forward,
guarantee there's gonna be something in New World that you're gonna want really bad. I'm gonna remember this.
I'm
gonna
going to
be
get
great.
everything I want in New World. I'm not even worried about that. If I wanted the architect, if I wanted all these things, I would have had them. I got my 5 crowns. That's what I wanted. I got it. I put in the work, right? You put in the
What
work
if you
for what
were in
you
the
want.
bottom 1% of people who literally needed thousands of hours to get the piece? There's not enough time has even elapsed in the game's history for some people to get the potion piece.
Then I
So,
went into
what
that
if you were one
grind
of those
knowing that
people?
that was a possibility.
But you
have
wouldn't
to
get
know.
you wouldn't get what you wanted though. You just said if you wanted it, you would get it. But that's literally not true. It's not.
I'm
up
just
to you.
stubborn. I just wouldn't give up.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean it doesn't matter. You could do it for
True.
10 years and still not have it.
True. Very true. Very true.
So just because you want it doesn't mean you're going to have it, no matter how
Right,
stubborn
but
you are.
the determination that I have, that I possess, I would work towards it until I got it. There's a point of pain for everybody, right? We all go into this crucible knowing that you can fail. You have to know that because you know the percentage. Even if you don't know the
We
exact,
don't
you know that
know
it's a
the
low chance.
percentage.
Even if you don't know it, you know it's in
Okay,
infinitesimally
but
small.
what about
percent.
the fact that every account and character has a different hidden seed in that game that rigs their RNG one way or another? Doesn't that kind of throw a wrench into things as well?
So,
Like, what if
again,
someone's grinding the potion piece and they don't have the dragon horoscope?
I just don't think it should be retroactive. I think moving forward, having a failsafe is an excellent idea, but it being retroactive ruins the crucible that so many people went in and achieved after years and years of.
Okay, I thought we were arguing
tribulation.
about the failsafe, but we're actually arguing about it being retroactive. All right.
Yeah, no, I've been trying to be clear about that. Yeah, I like the failsafe moving forward. I hate it retroactively. It's been too much. 5 years. People have been grinding for 5 years.
potion's not been up for
and just
5
be like,
years.
"Oh, here you go."
Potion's not been up for 5 years.
What, 2.5, 3?
Got you there.
Still too much. 6 months?
I have the potion.
Whoops,
and I'm
we
not
should have
mad
added
about
this.
it. I feel like this is a weird argument because you're philosophically against it without actually putting in an effort to get the potion.
Well, I decided it wasn't worth the time for me because I could have been on the bottom of that bell curve. And I did not want to be a Kugels or a Joe or whoever else has been out there grinding it for years. I didn't want to be that. It wasn't worth it. The worst case scenario wasn't worth it for me. So I never put in the work.
The problem
And I
is
didn't have enough control over it. I didn't have enough control over.
The kind of the problem I have with this argument is that you're arguing for someone else who's not yourself. You've not been in that position in BDO, and then you're arguing for someone who is not you.
Of course, I've been in that position.
No,
I
you
was
have
in that
not
position
grinded
every
for-
single day I was in that game.
You've not
Every single
grinded.
day I was in that game. I had the choice to do that. And I decided that it was not worth it for me to be on the bottom of that bell curve for the reward
You
that
have
came
not
out of that.
experienced the grind for that.
Because I feel that it, I don't want to say I was smarter than to do that, but
You're arguing for people on people's behalf that are not your own.
that doesn't invalidate my argument. I'm just on the other side of things.
yeah, it
just
doesn't
because I didn't turn off my
Can we
brain and
please
grind
just talk
for it.
about McCree or something?
It does not invalidate your argument, but it does mean that you're not the target audience for it.
That's not true at all.
You're not
Not
playing
even
BDO. You don't have the potion,
I played
and
BDO
you don't
for
plan
5
on,
years.
and you don't plan on
Fuck
getting
you.
the potion.
I played BDO for
So you're
5
not the
years at the
target.
highest level I possibly could.
Well, you're changing your. Is this called field goal post moving?
Can
or
we have
something
like a
that?
safe word or something for this podcast?
Pineapple.
Golden shower.
All right, those are safe words have been activated. We're now going on to the next topic. The next topic is
Sexual harassment.
Oh gosh!
Actually, if
No.
hold on. Moreland said something earlier that we let skate by, and I really want to push him on it.
No, I don't want
Was
to
it
do
about
that.
determinism?
No. Yeah,
You
it
know,
was about
free will
pegging.
isn't real, right?
Yes, I do, but I don't want to talk about
Okay.
that publicly. You said that we are reaching or currently in the golden era of MMOs, and I would
No, I
love.
didn't say golden era. I would not say golden era.
Renaissance.
What did
Golden
you say
era
then?
has passed and it's not
Oh,
coming
Renaissance.
back. But we
Sorry,
are in
Renaissance.
the Renaissance. Yeah.
Okay, so would you like to? I would love for you to elaborate on that a little bit.
So I think it's a number of things. I think it is FF14 kind of hitting, its exploding point, while at the same time you've got, I think the biggest games that are probably causing this shakeup are going to be New World and Lost Ark, but there's a bunch of sort of smaller games that are all coming out right now that are decent as well. And I think that is basically lighting a fire underneath a bunch of devs who have been kind of uninspired or lazy or complacent or whatever it is. It's the shift of the main game, World of Warcraft, losing its status. When something like that happens, that kind of shakeup happens, it's going to open the door for like new games to actually come in and fight for that. And I think that's what we're seeing with games like BDO that have kind of been on the cusp. Like they're actually going, oh, we can't just keep doing the same thing. It's not going to be enough to just release this, a new class every 3 months. If we want to compete with these new games that are coming out, then we are, actually going to have to start being creative and innovative in a way that we haven't been for the past several years. I think it's waking them up. Whether it's going to be successful or not, I don't know. But I definitely think like the amount of effort and awareness that's going into these games, to older games and their updates, is going to skyrocket as a result of the second half of this year.
I will definitely agree that it's not at all a coincidence that a couple games that have been kind of just coasting or trying to make some updates and fix things that people have been complaining about for the long time to try to capitalize on this shift in the MMO market.
Well, because all the competition has been old, right? Like it's been everyone versus, a game from 2005. And so compared to that, things felt innovative. Like a game that came out in 2016 is very new compared to all the other games that are dominating in this genre. But now that's finally changing. We actually have games in current year that are viable and competitive. And so I think that's going to make, the games from 5 years ago actually go, or even 8 years ago or 10 years ago, start to go, holy shit, like, what are we going to do? How are we going to keep up with that?
So you think
it's finally shifting?
You think this is the first time because of 14 and Asmongold moving over and blowing up attention towards that game, that this is the first time since WoW that we've had an opportunity to move away from that game?
Kind of. I think that I think that you have these games that come out, and this happens with every MMO, where it launches and it has maybe like 2 really good years where it's still kind of in that new game phase and the devs are still being creative and they're still like solving problems. And then these games seem to enter like a weird maintenance mode where all the creativity is gone and everything becomes very stale and repetitive. And I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's people moving on to other projects, but this seems to happen with like every fucking MMO. And these games enter this complacent state where they stop innovating. And they can get away with that for the most part because of how limited and old the competition is. Like BDO being stuck in a stale 2018 version of itself is still 5 or 10 years newer than most of its competition. But with actual new competition coming out, 2018 is starting to actually feel like stale in 2018 rather than something that's still like new and cutting edge. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it makes sense.
I think we've been in this position a couple times before, personally.
What games do you think made it happen in the past?
Oh, that's a good question. Man, I think Rift and Wildstar got pretty close. because they were palatable. They were designed to be palatable for World of Warcraft players to like move off, but they came out at the wrong time. I think if WildStar specifically, and I know I have an affinity for that game, but if it was re-released like maybe 5 years ago, 3 years ago, would have done way better than if they released like right before Wrath of the Lich King for WoW came out. So trying to kill WoW when it was in its heyday before anybody really knew it was in its heyday, like failed. But I think it's more markedly. I think what I agree with you, Moreland, but I was interested in hearing why. I think some of these indie games and MMOs and kind of these fringe things that have come out have created enough inspiration for some of the less creative people to be able to put things into a new AAA MMO, like we see a New World in the examples that you gave, for there to be real potential and threat. Also, World of Warcraft, we finally understand that every time you give them money, you're just going to fail. You're just burning your money.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting. There's two different sides of this. In the past, we've had good games that came out, and they weren't as good as like New World and Blessed Unleashed were, or are, right? And then we also had but we never had a time in the past where we had the top MMO at the time basically fall on its face and its players just disperse everywhere. And it's the first time it's happened. And World of Warcraft has been the unspoken king of the MMO genre for what is it, a decade and a half or something like that. And so now that throne is up for the grabs, and on top of that we have good new MMOs coming out, which also typically don't happen every year. So it's two really interesting factors and one of them is definitely never happened before, which is World of Warcraft. Like, I don't know, what was the big MMO before World of Warcraft? I don't even know. So, like, it's been at least 15 years since something big like this happened.
Well, it was a pretty even split between EverQuest and Ultima Online. EverQuest was technically the biggest game.
It was EverQuest.
But yeah, and WoW in a lot of ways is really just EverQuest, a sequel to EverQuest. It's essentially the exact same game, just with a lot of new features added. But that's really the last time. And before World of Warcraft, it wasn't like, EverQuest was dominant, but it wasn't like super dominant. All the other MMOs had a pretty big slice of the pie. I think EQ might have had 20% of the market share, but it wasn't like WoW that had 10 million players when there were games struggling to get 200,000. Back then, it was like every game had between 100 and 300,000 players, and everyone had the sub model, and like the competitive playing field was a lot more even. WoW came out and just fucking destroyed everybody, right? And then it had two really good expansions, and it kind of just rode that success for years and years. And I think its loss of momentum after Wrath is finally catching up to it now. FF14 has been, using all that time to build up and get to the point where it's at now, and just became like the absolute like sleeper theme park game. But then on top of that, you have all these games.
I disagree with that. I think 14's always been there, man. So I think you're stuck in the perception of your reality a little too much there. I think 14 has always been what it's been, or at least for the last couple of years.
No chance. In the last few years, sure. But I'm saying like it took a while to ramp up. A Realm Reborn was not a good game. Like I played through
Agreed.
it. It's like it's solid for what it is, but I wouldn't be playing that game if I didn't have Heavensward to look forward to.
Right. So A Realm Reborn was a market change and a great improvement over the original 14.
Yeah,
which
and
I played
still
a
not that
shitload
good.
of, and still not that good. But it was, much like we're seeing today, a really good basis for a game that could be iterated upon, and it has been, and it's been good for years. And there's been a lot of people out there playing it because it's been good for years. And so, I was a little interested. You made a good argument for the Renaissance thing, because I was worried that maybe you were just a little too hyped about, maybe caught up in the 14 hype kind of thing. But I
don't think 14 is the cause of the Renaissance at all. I think
it's the fall of WoW.
Yeah. And it's the fall of WoW, and 14 being there to be the stand. Like if 14 didn't exist and WoW collapsed the way that it's currently collapsing, then I don't know, dude. I kind of feel like they would just come up with a new expansion a year from now and everyone would go right back to WoW. But the fact that FF14 is so similar to WoW and it's there to like really say like, okay, now we're the number one, that's a different thing than if WoW had just failed on it. Because WoW kind of fails on its own every fucking expansion. But it doesn't matter. The game never dies. People just keep going back and buying the next expansion anyways. I think this is the first time where WoW dies and it stays dead.
Yeah, I obviously there'll be a resurgence with like
I
the
hope
new
so.
players coming out, right? Like with a new update, there'll definitely be something new. But with some players going back, but I don't think it's going to be the same, right? Like we've seen, I think, I don't know, probably what did you say, 50% of players quit, if not more, and I don't think they're going to get those back. I think they're going to get like maybe 20% of those back that they lost. On top of that,
So
optimization's way worse too.
it's an interesting point, right? So I think we're all, we're all streamers, right? So we might be a little, marred from, Twitch, but I think there's been a couple of trigger points where this could have happened, but WoW is now currently not only in the state of the game that it's in and the state of the classic, right? They're kind of out of cards to play, but also the company as a whole is in disarray with all the sexual, assault allegations and stuff. They've never been in a weaker spot, and there's never been so many good opportunities or so many good, kind of MMOs coming out of the woodwork here to kind of challenge it. So I'm glad that there's a home for people like FF14, so WoW players feel safe. I think I'm not being condescending. I'm not trying to be condescending. I think that's actually really important just to get them away from that addiction, even though it still feels familiar. But hopefully it teaches them that, you can branch out, find other stuff, try other things.
14 is the game that shows all the other game companies that it can be done, that you can beat WoW
Agreed.
with a smaller budget and a more devoted team and like just better practices. 14 is the game that showed everyone it can be done. No matter who's at the top, someone else can topple them. It can be done now. For years and years, no matter how bad WoW got, we were like, it just can't die. Like, no, you just can't do it. And now we know for a fact that you can. And so that's the first thing that's lighting the fire. But the second thing is that for the first time in maybe 5 years, good new MMOs actually are coming out. Nothing good has come out since BDO. Like there's been games that have come out and been fun for 2 months and then faded away, but there really hasn't been that many good MMOs in the last 5 or even 10 years. And now not only are we showing that WoW can be beaten, at the same time that that's happening, the contenders for who's going to be sticking around in the future are unclear. It might not be 14. 14's kind of old now. And like, we've got Lost Ark, which is crushing it over in other regions and coming to NA soon. We've got New World, which is a bunch of potential that may or may not be realized, but like everything is so unknown right now. And I think that really is going to shock a lot of these developers into waking up and thinking like, okay, I can't just add the 35th class to BDO. I need to actually figure out how to make the game good.
Yeah.
I think that's a very strong point.
Yeah, I wanted to expand upon that a little bit because that was an interesting comment.
I'm excited, dude. I feel like I have no like content problems for at least the next 2 years. I feel like I have so fucking much to do. And it is completely the opposite of how I felt 6 months ago. 6 months ago, I was just like, God, I'm so fucking tired of BDO. I wish there was something else to do. When is a new game going to come out? Every time I would get like a short vacation from BDO, whether it was like Valheim or Dark Souls Remastered or whatever, like I was so happy just to take a break and do something else. And then I felt like I was stuck going right back to the same place because there was no alternatives. And I feel like no matter what happens with New World or Lost Ark or whatever, there's so many legit alternatives right now and so much actual competition and freshness coming into this genre. It's the best looking that the MMO genre has been in at least 5 years, maybe 10.
Yeah, I gotta say, like, I was very surprised by Blessed Unleashed. I did not expect to play it as much as I have, and now we're getting closer to 300 hours put into the game.
Jesus.
Yeah, so I was very surprised with that, and I was just playing BDO and playing a new class and grinding it a little bit, and then after trying Blessed Unleashed, it was just a fresh new experience. And it's not, I don't think I actually am really curious what a new player would enjoy more. If they enjoy BDO more, or they enjoy Bless Unleashed more. And maybe this comes down to personal disposition, like personal taste. But I'm actually really curious which one would be better for a newer player, like enjoyable wise. For your wallet wise, without a doubt, Bless Unleashed is better. Without a doubt, Bless Unleashed is way less demanding on your wallet to just feel like you're having a good time.
Yeah, I was surprised to hear they spent $10 on that game. I came in the other day. I'm sorry, Merlin. I came in the other day to when Potion was streaming. I was like, "How much money have you spent?" You know, he's talking about all the cyan gear. He's like, $10. I was like, "Oh fuck!" Now I got to play it a couple hours because I was really worried about how much money it would cost.
Yeah, you can do this game completely free to play, and other than having like a hell of a time managing your inventory, you're really not like forced to spend any money or even like pressured to spend money in this game.
Okay.
But I mean, I think one of the interesting things about comparing Bless and BDO is that it actually is really hard to put the games side by side. Like people keep saying, how is this game compared to BDO? And I'm like, man, I don't really know how to answer that question. The games are really doing their own thing. And that's another thing we haven't seen in the genre for a long time. You know, it's not just like everyone's following the same WoW formula. Who does it better? Those type of games are easy. You can put WoW and 14 side by side very easily and say like who does what better and compare each features and progression in dungeons and stuff. Trying to compare something like Bless and BDO, much harder to do. Comparing BDO and New World, very hard to do. Comparing Lost Ark with New World, like that, you can't really put the games side by side. They're actually innovating. Like these people are actually doing their own thing for once instead of just copying the formula.
Competition is really nice because when there's very healthy competition, the consumer wins, right? Because the people are pushed to make changes and do things that they need to kind of, or at least they kind of feel as if there's a fire under them to stay competitive, which is something that BDO hasn't had for a very long time and is like getting finally. So, I mean, I think it's good, even if it's one of those things where it's like you don't want to play Bless or you don't want to play Final 14. Like, I don't think people should shit on them because it's like if they succeed, your game succeeds too. In theory, right? Like if another MMO that's coming, like for example, I know there's people that are like, haha, New World has 3 skills, lol. Like, okay, cool. You don't have to play it, but you should still want it to succeed for the genre as a whole because as other games that aren't WoW are succeeding, then they show that you don't have to just follow WoW and just do WoW to, you know, make something. So yeah, that's just what I think anyway.
They actually, it's very interesting looking at both games because I actually think New World is more complex despite it having a simpler overall aspect. I guess in PvP at the very least. In PvE, I guess Bless Unleashed wins really hard on that category. What games like what I have like everything you? I guess everybody's looking forward to New World the most. Why are people looking forward to New World more than other games right now?
It's because of the foundation. New World has the most potential out of any game by far. Like the frustration with New World is how much of that is unseen, right? But I think when you play New World, there's so much fucking possibility with like where that game could go, and I think that's what's making me excited for it. If the game stays in its beta state after launch, it's dead in a month. But if they actually make it into a good game, like the foundation is so solid, that could be a game we play for years. And it's hard to see that with new MMOs. Most new MMOs that I play, I'm like, okay, I see the start, I see the fin, I see how this works. Like with New World, the foundation is so fucking good that like I think it has way more long-term potential if they actualize that, which is, you know, a big if.
True. Well, what do we want to move on to now? Do we want to jump into more BDO? We didn't quite cover all of it.
Yeah, I want to get back into the potion piece, and so people can get a better idea of my worldviews through.
Oh, so wait, so Tim, I wanted your opinion on actually a Node War / Siege change that BDO talked about.
Yeah, yesterday.
Sure. So basically, there's this. So you know how they added the really good rewards for like Siege and stuff, the silver and blah 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 blah. Well, so there's been people that have been making alliances to like purposefully like stalemate it, liberate it, right? So like everybody
The
just
T1
gets
guilds, yeah.
the payment. So they're implementing a system that makes it so that instead of a node stalemating, it'll now be decided by a point system by depending on like how many kills your guild got, how much percentage of damage they did to other forts, and how much HP is left on your fort instead of it stalemating.
Right. So
So
that's
what do you think about
exclusive.
that?
So that's excluding people instead of including people. So they there's a I'm being put on the spot, so I don't have like this big articulate answer for
No,
this.
you're
I
good.
really haven't thought about it. But just by putting in a point system and trying to exclude those people that have the gear to be able to participate is exactly the reason that we got into this predicament with BDO Siege in the first place. Is capitulating to the loudest criers is not the right answer. It almost never is, right? And so these people, these T1 guilds coming in just to shake things up and to show them that they can be here and participate, and then immediately being excluded because they're not playing by, the puppet master's rules is not a good thing. They should be allowed to be included. And if they want to beat the people that are, in their view, fucking up the scene, then they need to recruit and bring more people in and provide their own rewards to defeat that enemy, right? The tools are there for emergent content. What they're coming in and doing is ruining it with something like that, is my initial reaction.
Okay.
The one thing I think it's going to do
More
is
people. I'm sorry. I had one more thought potion. More people is better than less people. I have lived through every arc of Siege you could possibly imagine. And when there's more people, there's more potential for more fun and more drama, which is what Siege is really about. So when you start like, hey, this is a problem. They're shitting in our sandbox. Well, the Siege scene is filled with cunts in general, right off the rip. So backing them up to exclude other people is a fucked thing to do.
Well, see, that's the thing, though. It's not the people that are joining and doing Siege because of the rewards that complained and are causing this change to go through. It's the people that have been doing Siege and it's been the same status quo that it's been for 2 years, and they're like, "Well, these new guys come in and they just zerg us out because we don't want to be in their alliance." Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So like that's what I'm saying. I agree. So it's like, well, it's like.
So now these guys finally have a place at the table, and they go, fuck you guys, we're gonna shit all over your stuff. And instead of them getting more people together to combat that, they cry about it and get the developers to save them. Weak and bad.
One thing that is interesting about this is that they made the buildings way more points. Like even like little walls and stuff, they give you points. So I think what's going to end up happening is you're just going to have two bases put beside each other, and people are just going to kill each other's buildings over and over again. And it's just going to be win trading, but they're just changing the format. They're just changing the problem from one thing to another, right?
They're making win trading a mechanic instead of actually having to politic it. Win trading politics wise is fine because you can do something about it. But like setting up bases and like abusing mechanics that are put in there because you cried louder than the other guys that are just coming in to shit on your stuff because you're cunts is a completely different thing.
You still lose if your fort gets destroyed, right? So like the point system will just exist between the alliance who wins regardless.
Yeah, the point system is put in place so that like there will be a winner regardless, even if an alliance is there trying to stalemate the node. The guild that did the most has the most points in the point system will get it. So it's like there will always be a winner.
Why does this nerf T1 guilds then? They can still come, bring their alliance, kill the big guilds, and then it's just going to determine what happens after that, right?
We'll have to see how people play out the strategies to see how it'll work.
And they also haven't stated what the silver reward is going to be for other people in terms of points, because the way it is currently, if the node gets stable or stalemated, everybody's there gets like 500 mil. So it's like that's the reason why that they were those alliances that were wanting to stalemate the nodes, right? So that everybody can just grab some fat money and just.
I love that, man. If people don't like it, they should get their friends together, get their old friends together, people who quit, or, maybe empower some smaller guilds to be, on your side and go to battle with those people that want to or are trying to stalemate or whatever the case is. Deal with it with the way that it is. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing happening that they shouldn't be able to deal with. Right.
I mean, I agree. I mean, it's been hilarious for the last week seeing these fucking Siege members just complaining and whining about getting wiped out by nobody.
Well, that's what they
T1
do
guilds.
best.
Like, it's hilarious. It's been
That's
Whining and
two
complaining is
separate
what they do
issues,
best.
though. I mean, I think you guys are going a little hard because you dislike the siege guilds, and I'm all in favor of mechanics that fuck over siege guilds. But at the same time, I don't think it's interesting for the system to incentivize 4 guilds sitting there AFK in their base so that they can all get a payout. Like, they should have to fight after, and if they still want to ally and take out the siege guilds, fine. Like, this doesn't prevent that from happening, right? But after that happens, there should be some reason why your alliance splits up and kills each other, and an actual winner is determined. Like, that's
for sure.
that's
If
how
you have a
T1s used to
suggestion.
go. Well, that's how we used to script T1s, right? It would start as a 4v4, and it would go down to 3v3, and then like if your team won, then your 4 would split into 2s, and you would 2v2, and then whoever won that would split, and you would 1v1. Like, so we would make it so that the fights were interesting. So the mechanics should be doing that in a way that like the players aren't forced to script the content themselves. And if the mechanics are incentivizing people to not fight because that's the biggest payout, then that's like, I feel like that's too much of an uphill for the players to have to overcome with their own rules.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really give a fuck about Siege. I just wanted to see what Tim's thoughts, because Tim's
doesn't the winning guild get like
interesting.
3 billion per person or something like that? Isn't that what it's supposed to be?
The problem is that it never was supposed to be about money. If it's all about getting money, then you've already failed your PvP system. And so that's kind of like the core issue here, is they're not really addressing, like, it should be like a prestige thing, right? It should be like a fame, like you're the best, like, you know,
It's never been about that.
Well, why do you get every crown, right? Because you wanted to go around and sing
That's
you have
me.
all the crowns.
Nobody else cares about that. That's me.
Oh,
that is very, very specifically me.
Why do people
Nobody else
join
gives a
Snake,
shit about
people
that.
want something to fight over, right? It's like territories in New World.
Yeah.
If you didn't get any benefit from owning a territory and all it did was put your name at the top of the zone, would it be as interesting? I mean, people would still do it, sure, but I think having the actual reward for winning PvP is definitely important, and I don't think that's ever something BDO has really done a good job of. The reward structure has always been fucking weird.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I don't know. That's just off the rip. That's my thought process. Is, you know, I think the changes in the gear capping and stuff like that is going to make it more interesting and bring in, you know, different competition. And
yeah, dude, there's been
I think they should solve it.
There's been more guilds dropping in the past like 3 weeks since they added that change than I've ever seen in like in a while, like a long time.
Well, the thing is, like, there has, like, I think going back to the core, right? There has to be consequences and rewards, and the reward is good enough, I guess, but the consequences aren't. So there should be some type of consequence for stalemating, right?
Well, hold on. Okay, for stalemating, you want a consequence for stalemating? Because it costs 1 billion silver to drop in Siege now, which for a T1 guild, no. That's a lot for a T1 guild.
You just go farm some sea monsters and get a bill from that.
Absolutely
that's
not.
way too high of a cost. Farming sea
Absolutely
monsters?
not. No. So that's why they're trying to like bleed these guys out. They think it's not going to last or whatever the case is, because if they don't get their way, they don't get half their investment back, which 500 bill T1 guilds can swallow. Most T1 guilds can swallow. But a bill and they get nothing back, that's the disincentivization that they should have that's already in place, right? That is what they should have done a long ass time ago. People are dropping dead drops and shit because it only costs nothing, especially after they changed the worker things. So these guys are getting a coalition together to fuck with the Siege guilds because they've got the gear, because now they're suddenly in competition because they don't have to have 700 gear score, cheat and pay to win to be competitive. And now they're sticking it to these guys. And I think that's fine. And it's not because of my predisposition of disliking Siege guilds. I fucking love Siege guilds. I loved being in one. I loved running one. I loved everything about it. But the fact that the first time it doesn't go exactly the way that they want, they start squealing, crying, and looking for a different way out outside of things that are already set up to protect them. These guys want to do this, and it's penalizing their own guilds to do it. That is 100% fine. Because if
Why
they
does
don't get that
this-
stalemate, they go broke.
So why does this mechanic help the like incumbent siege guilds? That's what I'm not getting.
Oh, I don't know if it does. I don't think we will know until it's played out a few times. So I don't.
The point system? They'll just farm each other. They're way better at that stuff than the T1. The T1 guilds are just dropping it.
Only if they don't get knocked out, though, right? If they get knocked out, they still lose. Do they still get the points if their fort is destroyed?
That'd be weird.
Not that
That'd
I mean,
weird.
If they lose, they lose, right? If they get zerged by T1 guilds, then they get zerged by T1 guilds. It doesn't.
Yeah. So the point system they put in is just there for like once time runs out and it's stalemated, it will award a winner based on the point system. It's not. It's yeah. So
it'll help the siege guild if they manage to stay alive against the alliance, and the siege guild plus the alliance stalemate together. But it doesn't do anything for the siege guild if the alliance just stalemates with the alliance.
Interesting. I think that's probably a good change. It basically guarantees a winner, and I think that's probably a good thing.
Fuck that. Fuck no. Oh my god. Dude, some of the best sieges ever were the ones that stalemated. The ones where I was hosting the podcast and we all sat there in Serendia watching these two guilds just battle it out back and forth, and then it stalemated, right? It was Balanos had a winner, Galfion, Medea, Valencia, they all had a winner, but these two fucking random-ass guilds just had a 4-hour fucking brawl, right? And for it to go to some fucking judge point system and it not just be what it is, and then that creates emergent content for next week, where now it's a double payout on the territory. Let's see how many people are going to go back. Are they going to run it back? Are they going to bring more? You know, there's so many storylines that can come out of that. To bring it to some fucking point system,
I don't think so.
I agree. I think the point system is like, I actually do think it's a lot more boring for it to go to points, because some of the best sieges, or even like node wars that I can remember, are when we were like surviving with 3% health against 4 guilds and trying to figure out, like, if that was just going to go to points, then I mean, yeah, we would win because of kills, I guess, but like the whole fight would have played out differently. They wouldn't have been like throwing themselves at our fort to begin with, because the system would have said to go feed each other rather than to try to, 4v1 our fort down.
Somebody in Kerr's chat just said Tim knows how many T1 guilds you're dropping, right? It's like, tough shit. The T1 scene has been basically building itself up and trying to be,
is that a bad thing?
Nice to each other and supportive of each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the siege scene has been shitting on each other and trying to kill the game as hard as they can. At some point, you got to reap what you sow, and I think they deserve it.
Well, honestly, the reason all those tier 1 guilds are there is because literally the siege guilds went to tier 4s, kicked everybody off tier 4s, then went to tier 3s, kicked everybody off tier 3s, then went to tier 2s and kicked everybody out tier 2s. So then and they complained, well, there's nobody to play with.
That's not how that worked, but the sentiment's there, right? I understand. But they basically just keep trying to kill. Instead of like saying good fight, they want to kill the guild that they're fighting. Instead of, oh, good fight, thanks for showing up, right? They'll say that, but they don't mean it, because in the back Discord, right, in the DMs, it's all toxic, racist, doxing.
I mean,
bullshit.
even in white chat, it was toxic. Like, there were so many sieges that we were in where as soon as the fort died, white chat just exploded with like some really toxic shit, and like people just stopped logging in after seeing that enough times. Like, nobody likes losing, but nobody also, like, it's worse to lose to a bunch of people who are gonna like, drop racial slurs in chat, or just like, I don't know. There was a whole, like, just the sportsmanship in that game was egregiously low. And so the fact that there's a bunch of T1 guilds who actually are attempting to enjoy the game and have fun and grow the community rather than shrink it are now having some success, that's a problem. Why is that a problem?
Right.
Yeah. One thing I want to make clear is that my perspective on this is like a third party, someone who plays the game a lot, but as a third party. And so it's nice having your guys' insight into this as more, because you guys are a lot more close to the source on that, right?
Yeah, that's the only reason I cut you off when you did the T4 3 2 1.
I think it's very fair.
I get that, but like, this is how it actually works.
Yeah, it's very fair.
No, I appreciate your perspective, 100%.
and that's what you should do too, right? Because otherwise, it's misinformation, right? Like,
I don't want to give you too much rope to hang yourself with.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, good question, Kurt. Damn.
So more quality of life changes, and we can see what our conversations we spur along the way. They're adding AMD FSR, which is something like fidelity. It's
Awesome.
basically
It looks amazing.
Yeah, for what people who don't know what that is, that's basically they upscale your game and make it run at higher FPS, but to your eye, it looks very similar. If you look at maybe some little distant tree or something like that, maybe you'll notice something slightly different. But basically allows you to run at higher FPS at your current resolution, or run the game at a higher resolution that you previously play at, and have relatively similar FPS.
There were some benchmark videos that people have done on the FSR that when it was at Global Labs last week, and a lot of the cases they were gaining like 40 or 50 FPS just by switching over to the FSR.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really you explained it pretty well, because I didn't really understood what sense it or how it really worked, but it's a huge performance increase for anybody that has a 10 series plus card, and there's a couple of the AMD parts on there, but I'm not too well.
Yeah. It works with NVIDIA and AMD, which is really, really cool. I'm trying to think what the other thing I was going to say about it was. The benchmark that I saw, it went from 27 FPS in a city, and during gameplay, up to around 80 FPS. So that's about 250% FPS increase for very little fidelity decrease. And so I think almost everybody's probably going to use that.
Yeah, even on a 1440 monitor, he also experienced like a 40 FPS increase, which was pretty interesting to see.
Mm-hmm.
With AMD become more popular, like having support for it, even though I would fucking rather pour milk in my computer than ever buy an AMD product. There's other people out there that don't feel that way, and having support for, there's always been an abundance of support for NVIDIA, and there's not enough for AMD. So anything we can do to help the AMD homies out, I'm all for, man.
Well, what happened
it should
with
be
this?
A split. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, what happened with this is that AMD developed this technology because NVIDIA has one, but it's DSLR, and it's like you can't use it on AMD products. So AMD developed one that can be used with AMD products and NVIDIA products. It can be used with both. And so that's why they're implementing that version, because both graphic card users can benefit from it. So
what a good idea.
Yeah.
Well, DLSS can only be used on certain programs too, right? So like every couple of weeks they'll come out with a game and they'll put it on their Twitter and be like, hey, look, double your FPS. But that's interesting that AMD is developing one that can be used on both platforms.
Well, I got a fancy $1,500 Radeon card, and it was absolute dog shit for BDL. So hopefully this changes that. Like literally my last gen. No, I got rid of it after 2 weeks. It was noticeably worse than the last gen. Like I have a 2070 right now that I just borrowed from a friend. It was way better than the new top of the line AMD card that had just came out.
That
It was
really
impossible
weird.
to get.
The RTX series cards are so much better than the non-RTX series GeForce cards. I have no idea why. It just the architecture difference is so huge. It's like going from the 5,000 and 6,000 series Intels to 7 and 8. There's just like a huge difference between them, and just how smooth things run.
Still rocking my tried and true 1080 Ti, dude. I'm probably gonna have this thing until it breaks at this point.
I don't feel the need to buy a new card now that I'm not playing BDO. That was literally the only game that I felt the need to spend thousands of dollars on hardware for. I don't even I feel like my 2070 is fine for everything else coming out.
Who can even afford to buy a new card nowadays? The fuck, dude?
So
I actually noticed that when I went from, I had two 1080 Ti's, and I went from that to one hybrid cooled 2080 Ti. And when I run games, like when I ran BDO or any game for that matter on lower settings, I actually get worse performance than when I put it on higher settings. So that was kind of a weird change. So like when I'm streaming and stuff, for the podcast, you want the webcams to show correctly, so you turn down the graphics settings on BDO, but then BDO's frame rate takes a dump. It just
it switches from your GPU to your CPU or something.
It's something weird.
Yeah, it just fucks up. I really want to talk about the Blizzard drama. Do you guys want to talk about it?
Sure. Let me go through the rest of these little things real quick.
Okay, we got more.
Yeah, they have in BDO they added another quality of life change where you can kill 3,000 of anything, and you can get your pink crescent ring quest done. So that's very, very nice. They also added some
That might
other-
actually bring me back into the game. That's content, baby. 3,000 of the same mob in BDO. That's something I'll log on and do. Fuck
So-
these
Wait,
daily quests.
hold
bro.
on,
Just give me 3,000 mobs to kill.
Isn't for the season weekly 5,000 mobs?
I think so. The reason they did this is because a lot of people not all grind spots have a quest you can pick. So if you want to go grind Sakurai, you couldn't do it. So this is just something where it covers it for everybody, and I like that because in the past that was frustrating.
The best spot you could do it at was Akhmet or Histria, and that was the problem. So it's like if you wanted to grind it if you wanted to grind Hadum or Underwater or Stars In or something, you just couldn't. You'd have to go and spend time at Polyforest or some shit, right?
Dude, I hope they learn this lesson. Just stop making fucking shitty daily quests and instead do what the game is actually good at. Go kill 3,000 mobs. Yes, thank you. I will do that. That's what BDO is.
The arbitrary limits are just so strange, you know?
Make really it 3 million mobs. I don't fucking care. I'll do that too. There should be, like, you know how FF14 has that shitty hunting log where you like go around and kill 10 of each mob? There should be that in BDO. There should be a version of 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, 1,000,000, and 10 million kills for every single mob in the game. And they should all have titles. And they should all, like, why not? There should be some fucking adventure log you can fill up and you get like a point of max energy every time you do it. It would be like the knowledge grind, but 100 times more content. And it's so easy. Literally, they could do it in 5 minutes. Wouldn't require them to add anything new to the game.
You won't even tell people how many mobs you've killed in BDO, so why would you wear a title that they gave you?
I mean, listen, dude, when my berserker that I play off stream, he does a lot of damage, okay? People just don't need to know about it.
Just make sure your brother puts his ghillie on, by the way.
Yeah. Tell Tony to put that ghillie on. I'm pretty concerned that less than a weekly worth of mobs you need for a pink crescent, but continue.
Well, you have to do the daily like 90 times in a row, so that's a small amount.
Oh, you have to do 3,000 mobs 90 times?
Yep. So
I retract my previous statement.
Oh, never mind. Yeah. It's still a daily? Okay.
It's still a daily, but the daily
take back everything I said.
One of the daily quest is 3,000.
Can you not make us look dumb and give us all the information before we comment on it,
I just
please?
wish, like, instead of 3,000 mobs 90 days in a row, how about they just let us kill 300,000 mobs at our own?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, dude.
There's
literally just
all
make
it
it.
is.
Just make it 300,000 mobs, and then once you got your 300,000 mobs, you can get your reward, bro. Like, why do you have to spread it out over 90 days?
If you want to do 3,000 a day, you can. If you want to do more, then you can. If you want to do less, then you can. Like, quit making it a chore.
Can we have a failsafe in case I get sick and I can't make it for all 90 days? I can still have some days.
All right, what's next on the list, Potion?
World of Warcraft. You can't name in-game characters after workers anymore.
So I actually can't decide how I feel about this, which is why I wanted to discuss it on the podcast. So obviously, I think them saying that they can never name a character after anyone ever again, that feels ridiculous to me. Like, really, you have such little faith in your workforce that you can't anticipate where the next sexual assault scandal is coming from. So you just can't ever name an item after a person anymore. That's a little weird.
No.
But the overall, like, taking the name of a character who has gotten ousted from the company and changing it, I don't know, dude. Like, what do you guys think about that?
I think it's the whole thing with Twitch Pog again. It's the
PogChamp thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, McCree's offense was a little bit worse than Mr. PogChamp, but it's kind of the same thing.
Well, I mean, the underlying argument of that is like...
Wait, what happened? Hold on, what happened?
Person did something bad, and because of that, we're going to remove our company's association in all forms and formats, even if the players don't like it.
Wait, did the McCree guy do something bad and that was his real name or something? Yeah, I think he grabbed some ass. I don't know the details, but those are the allegations. I think he's gone from the company and all references to him are being
McCree after him?
Yeah, so they're going to rename the character McCree because the real life McCree is an ass grabber.
Why can't the
Okay.
in-game McCree be an ass grabber?
Allegedly an ass grabber. I don't know if it's been proven or not, but yeah.
Okay, I gotta ignore that potion. I completely agree with this. They should never name a character off a real life person just right off the rip. No.
Staff of Jordan? You want to rename it?
Staff of Bill Jackson. Who cares? The item, the character makes the character, not the name. The name doesn't matter. The embodiments. The embodiment of what that is makes the name, not vice versa. The name McCree did not make the character McCree. That's just what they named it. It could have been named Philip, and he still would have been, it's 12 o'clock, and done that whole thing and would have been just fine. They don't have
so
to
there
attach
can't be
it.
any reference to the creators of the game inside of the game? That's what you agree with that?
No, I don't think you should avoid it. I don't think it makes any sense. Why would you do that to yourself? We're human beings. Everybody fucks up. You don't know if you hired somebody. Hey, how are you doing, Moreland? Oh, I'm doing great.
So,
hey, have you ever grabbed some pussy? No, I would never do anything like that. Great. Oh my God, you're a great developer. Thanks for all the work. Appreciate it. We're gonna name a character out of you. Cool. Well, I've been secretly grabbing pussy all as often as I can. Well, shit. Now we have to rename this character because that's bad luck. Like, why would you do that? You don't know these people. They're employees. Why would you do that,
dude? But people have been doing this since
the
dawn of time with their creative endeavors, and it's only just now a problem, and only with this company.
So this is why I would say, if you're naming a character, you don't name it after like Hitler, right? You don't do that because that's a bad person. Right, but if you name it after a person,
how dare you? How dare you insult my Grim Dawn characters?
Basically my thought on this is like, if you don't know the person's a bad person, then once the character is created, it's no longer an embodiment, like you said, of the person anymore. It's an embodiment of what that character is in the game. So it doesn't matter what the name is, because the name is no longer associated in the player's mind to the person in the studio, right? Because the player doesn't. I don't know that. I didn't know McCree was named after.
I had no awareness that he was named.
I wouldn't change the name. I wouldn't change the name.
Yeah, I
wouldn't name them after people moving forward. Not to bring this back up. Moving forward, I wouldn't name them after employees, especially when you have such a terrible culture in your company. And I think that's good practice just to cover your own ass. But I don't think they had to change McCree. I don't think they had to change the name.
Dude.
What kind of internal working structure do you have where you can't trust your developers to not grab pussy at the water cooler, bro?
That's what I'm saying, dude. Like, is it really that hard?
Yeah, it is.
What is the internal?
You don't know these people.
You
don't know people that you hire. You have no idea what they do in their office.
McCree, he was at the company for like a decade, wasn't he?
He could walk out the door and rape a dozen women every night, and they have no idea.
2 weeks.
All right, well, that's
a
little different than
naming characters after new employees who just showed up. They're naming characters after staples of the company who have been there for a long time, and they're saying that they can't. They cannot do that anymore because it's too fucking risky.
I get weirded out when I name my characters Moreland TV on my single player games. I'm like, he's going to do something bad and I'm going to regret this.
I think it's totally fine to name characters after employees. I think that's totally fine. I have no problem with that personally.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I think that's, and like, I don't think they should rename McCree. Like, just because because of IRL McCree, a bad guy now, right, has bad moral code. Does that mean that like all of a sudden the McCree in the game has bad moral code? Like, no, there's no association past from the original head nod, right? Now, if the player base made a shout out saying, hey, we want this removed, then I would remove it based on the player base feedback and what their intention is. But I would never remove it based on like a company agenda or like anything like that. I just don't think it's right. Like, it only matters if the players care.
All jokes aside, I don't think they should change the name or anything like that, right? It perpetuates cancel culture, which I don't like at all. It's so trigger happy, you know what I mean? And so I think this is a perpetuation of that. But when you have it in the optics of Blizzard, right, they really can't handle any more of this stuff, so maybe they have to. But McCree is completely, it's been out for how long's Overwatch been out? 8 years or something? I've been banned from it for 2. So the optics of it, right? They had to do it. I understand that. But McCree is McCree within itself. And so many of us didn't know that it was named after the guy that voiced it or was it or whatever the case was. And so I don't think that really has any basis towards it. But because they're in the position that they're in, they have to do it, right? But moving forward, I just think you can be, again, all jokes aside, I think you could be more original than naming a character after an actor or the person that it really is, and just like immerse yourself in the game that you're developing and come up with a vision and not have to nod your head to people that are well paid and famous for doing their work. They've got enough of a nod. Like, create your world, have a vision, and be ballsy about it. And then if shit happens, and don't capitulate to cancel culture unless you're Blizzard and you're going through what you're going through.
Well, I think even in Blizzard's case, I was still, if I was like someone in charge, I still want to change the name. I want to change the name. I want to capitulate. I want to, because it only,
And that could be the answer.
It only matters if the players, because ultimately the players equal income, and if the players are not upset about it, they like the name McCree, and they're like, well, fuck the real life McCree dude, but we like McCree in the game, like, well, it's fine, right?
I don't know. What if his name was Cosby?
It's such a weird.
Would you leave that in?
Yeah, I would still leave that in.
You would have a character named Cosby in your game?
It really just comes down to what the customer cares about. Because customer ultimately equals revenue, which then if you have good revenue, then your investors will eventually buy your stock again.
So you'd have Bill Cosby and O.J. Simpson in the same video game.
Like I said, it comes down to the player base. Like, if the player base said, no, we don't want this, we want this removed, right? And that was a voice that was being heard, and I don't know what measures they could use.
As
for
with
I just
all,
wanted something to occur on that.
As with all Twitter outrage, 99% of people don't give a shit. None of the players are ever, like, he could be a fucking serial killer and the player base wouldn't care. So I don't know if like leaving it to the player base is really the.
I think it's a case by case thing, right? Like, I think they shouldn't stop naming stuff after people just because they're scared that those people will eventually do something bad. I think that's like not really a good way to go. It kind of perpetuates this walking on eggshell kind of like practices. But at the same time, I do think it's fine to remove shit if at all something happens, but it just depends on the situation, right? For example, it's like, okay, like Pog, right? Like Pog on Twitch has transcended the person, right? Because it's like at this point, most people don't even know who the fuck the guy was, right?
I never knew who he was before Twitch changed it, and
exactly.
then I went and read all of his toxic Twitter posts that he got in trouble for.
Exactly, right? So it's like Pog transcended what it was supposed to be, but then it's like you go and you think about something like, I don't know, like fucking people removing like Civil War statues and shit, right? Where it's like, well, people should be able to remove something like retroactively, but I don't think you should not put some. Like,
how do we keep going back to this?
Wait, what?
But yeah, point in case is, I think that the thing that it's when it's named after someone, it can transcend the person that it's named after. Right?
That was the point I was trying to make.
That's basically what I'm saying.
I guess,
it becomes
but that doesn't mean
thing,
you can't
its own entity.
remove it.
Yeah, but the person, I guess that to tie that back into what I was saying a little bit is I agree with that, and I think that is determined by the user base, right? Because Pog has just transcended its original like intention, right, of it being a person from the company a long time ago, and that was determined by the community. So if the community of Overwatch said, hey, we need this removed, and then you remove it, and if it and then
wait. Are you saying Pog's removal was determined by the community? Is that what you just said?
No, I'm saying that the community should decide why it has transcended its original like connection to the person, right? The community would decide that, because that's what I'd say. Everybody wants Pog back, right? Despite what the guy said,
they happened to stumble across a really good replacement for it, which was already another emote, but. More focused on the subject, I think if you're not in tune with your community enough as an organization to be able to make that decision for yourself, then there's, a bunch wrong with what's going on, right? Like if you don't know that people, if you just assume everybody knows that McCree is a person and grabbed a bunch of snatch or whatever, when that's not really the case, and you could have just been like, hey, we fired this guy, he was a really bad guy, gotta let it go, moving on. I think they could have gotten away with that just fine. And then of course you're gonna have the fucking, just unemployed fucking scumbags going, hey, rename the character, and just see if it lasts longer than 2 weeks, and go from there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I really, for the most part, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And I think that's generally the approach I would have to something like that. It would have to be a pretty big deal. Like, I mean, bigger than the Pog and the McCree. Like it had to be pretty huge. Like I can't.
Hey, off the top of your heads, do you guys know what the PogChamp guy did? You remember off the top of your head right now?
Yeah, it was really vague. It took me a while to figure out what he was even in trouble for. He said something that was a little Alex Jonesy, but
was he the one that was agreeing with the whole Capitol storming thing? Because there was one. That was it, right?
He didn't agree. He didn't even really agree with it. He just said,
yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
He agreed.
We're gonna have to rehash this.
Well, anyway, the point of this original thing is let's go around and everybody say do you think this is something that generally companies should do more often, is remove names, or less? And mine is obviously less. What do you guys think?
I think it's bad practice in general for the reasons I stated before, but definitely less. I think capitulating to the mob is bad for game development, bad for optics, and bad for everything.
I do think there's degrees of it, right? Like saying something that's, a little bit too right wing on Twitter versus actually physically assaulting someone in real life, kind of
that's
different
fair.
Levels of crime there. And, I think there's some people who have clearly done things that are bad enough that you wouldn't want any reference to them ever in your game again. But there's also with some of this stuff, there's unproven allegations against someone, and then they're completely removed from everything. And it's okay, well, so what are we doing here? There's not even any, evidence that this thing actually happened, and the person's still getting canceled and removed. So I don't know. It seems messy to me.
Yeah. Do you guys think that as people, we should be able to separate the things that bad people create from that person in general? If that makes sense. So for example, like what's his name? R. Kelly, right? Piece of shit person that's probably going away forever for the dumb shit that he's done, the dumb and abusive shit that he's done, with the current court case. But it's but he's made some of the most beautiful
prolific music.
Yeah, in the last X amount of years. So it's do you think we as people should be able to separate the person from the product, right? Separate the person from the creation. Yeah.
So I'd actually like to start with that, even though as a cis white male, I feel like my opinion probably matters a little bit lower than most about this.
Being unironic
I'm serious. No, I'm being
I'm
serious.
Right
so I think
causing me physical pain.
I'm sorry, but I do feel that my opinion on this matters less because of that.
Because of your immutable characteristics. Yikes, dude.
Yes.
Bad take.
No, I agree. I'm not happy about it, but that just seems to be the way that it is. I think that if somebody really enjoys R. Kelly, or who's the guy from House of Cards, Kevin Spacey, or Louis C.K., or Harvey
Louis didn't
Weinstein's
even do
movies.
anything.
Right,
Don't
I know.
group Louis
I know,
in with those other people.
I know.
Louis,
I know. But anybody who had these serious allegations and you really like their content, I think you should, when you watch it, you should just in your head go, this was a bad person, right? This was a bad person. You should really just take a second to go, this person sucks, Michael Jackson, whoever. But the content that they create does something for you. If it does something for you, if it helps you, if it makes you feel something, if it does something for you, then, continue to enjoy it. I have a tough time with that. I generally try to stay away from content that these people do, but I find myself going to it, and I say to myself, actively in my head, these were bad people. They're shitty, but fuck, this is a good comedy, or whatever the case is, or a good movie.
All right.
I mean,
That's a really
isn't
strong
all
point.
art made by bad people?
So I guess what I would say to that is I think the idea of everyone being able to make up their own mind is the most important thing there. That's the very, very most important thing, because what is offensive to Tim is not might not be the same offensive to me, and what is offensive to Kerr might also not be offensive to the other three of us. And so that there is the key. Everybody should be able to make up their own mind and determine their own mind of what they are offended of and to what degree they are offended. Because if we don't do that, right, on every individual topic, then you cease to be an individual. You're just groupthink, right? You're just
Part of
hive
the
mind,
hive.
right? And I think it's very, very important for everybody to think individually and come to their own conclusions on those topics. And they should not be the same in most cases. And if they happen to be the same, that's fine. And also not to discourage other people's opinions either if they are different. You know, if something's far left or far right or something like that, and you don't agree on the stream points, you might have to come to agree to disagree, or find a logical argument to convince the other person, which is rare. Usually people have to come to those conclusions themselves or watch a YouTube video on a subject they're already interested in. So
I think
Good
like
take.
expressing the canceling someone over expressing a different opinion, even if it's an extreme opinion, that's one thing. Canceling someone over like an actual real life crime, I still feel like is another thing, right? So
well,
I don't know. For me, it kind of comes down to what did this guy actually do?
That's
Well-
why I'm saying that it's like it's a case by case basis. I don't think there's like a broad stroke to it, right? Where it's like it shouldn't be. It's like, for example, there was a thing where like a while ago, this country singer Morgan Wallace dropped the N-bomb in a video somebody was recording. He like called somebody the hard R, and it like kind of blew up or whatever. And it's like, well, it's like, like that's so it's like that's different from someone who is accused and convicted of like kidnapping and raping women, right?
Well-
It's like there's different levels and degrees to things, and
all right.
it's
Well,
case by
here's
case, right?
here's an example. All right. So let's say you had someone break into your house and you were traumatized by that. Someone break into your house, they robbed you, you were there, and you literally just can't sleep at night anymore because of that. You would have a completely different standard for people who rob people and broke into people's houses than anyone else. And that's where it comes down to your each individual judgment, and why cancel culture is not very healthy, because it's taking away the thought of each individual person, like what they would do, right? We're supposed to have different responses, right? Like for me, I wouldn't remove somebody's name, right, from a video game. I would basically almost never do it. I won't say never, but I can't imagine any scenario where I'd do that. And so for someone else, they have different standards, and that's totally fine if they think that, yeah, our standard, we keep a very strict policy on this. We're going to remove their name. We don't want to be associated at all. And I think that's totally fine if they want to do that. My problem is when there's an entire culture of that happening, because it's the thing to do, and people aren't making choices on their own volition anymore. That's where I think it's the.
What a good take. What a good take. I like that a lot.
Well, this is clearly coming from like a corporate risk mitigation standpoint, right? I mean,
Sure.
It's not like this is the result of the company getting too big and unmanageable and having too many scandals. Like this isn't, I doubt that the employees have come together and said, hey, we never want to name anything after each other ever again. Like we can't have any tributes to our friends and coworkers in our games. I don't think that's where it's coming from. I'm pretty sure it's coming from someone at the top who's like, holy shit, can you guys just stop? Like, can you just stop doing everything with any level of risk, please? Like, I think that's where it's coming from.
Yeah. I'm more interested on your guys' individual takes, because the company side of that's I think pretty black and white. You know, it's very obvious their intentions.
Whoa.
Oh, that was supposed to be a black and white joke.
I just said whoa.
Haha.
I hate to do this. I've never done this before. I have a small personal emergency I have to tend to. I got to cut out a little early, so I'm sorry I can't do the outros.
Do we have anything else? We can just wrap up
Yeah,
here.
we can wrap up.
Yeah.
We
Are
can
you
go.
sure?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What episode was it? 58, right?
That's a doozy.
This was a doozy of episode 58. I wish we could go on a little bit longer, but I don't know. We'd probably all get canceled if we did. Thank you guys so much for listening. We're normally live 3 p.m. Eastern. That's 12 Pacific on Fridays, but sometimes we do it on Saturdays, as we're 4 individuals who have our own lives. Live is Moreland TV and Kerr on Twitch. And then if you want to catch us afterwards, that's going to be on Potion Shop's YouTube and our Spotify. So before we call it a week, I want to roll out the red carpet for each and every one of us. What do you guys got going on this week? Kerr, what's your stream looking like this week, man?
My stream's gonna be a little weird this week. I'm moving to a new place sometime this weekend, and I'm not 100% sure what the internet is like there yet. So I'll be kind of fleshing that out within the next couple of days. So that's kind of where we're at on there. So nothing in stone yet until I get some normalcy, because like school and work started back this week. So busy.
Moreland, what's up with you, man?
Still pretty addicted to Bless, but it's waning off a bit. So I'm going to be looking to probably start getting back into 14 and splitting my time between the 2 games. And then we'll have the New World beta, but I guess that's still kind of like more than a week away. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm also trying to be more consistent with YouTube. I need like topics that are actually motivating enough to where I can spend a day or 2 working on them. But I would like to start uploading on YouTube at least a couple times a month, maybe weekly if I can get the workflow down. But only if there's stuff that I actually feel like putting the effort into. So that, keep an eye out. That might happen. I posted a pretty in-depth review on Bless, and I'll definitely make a video on New World before it launches, but probably after the beta. So we'll see what happens with the other topics.
Potion.
I should be streaming Bless Unleashed this week, ramping up the stream times and getting prepared for New World a little bit mentally with the stream and everything. New album is complete. It should be a couple weeks until it gets out on Spotify. It has like an approval process it has to go through to get on Spotify. So new album should be out on Spotify here in a couple weeks. So I'm looking forward to that being out, and glad that we finally got it done. It was a lot of work. So that's basically what I have going on.
As for me, I'm going through some personal stuff. I'm going to take some time off stream, and I want to thank everybody that keeps their sub running or whatever the case is, or is active in Discord. But I need some time away. I'm just going to probably play some 14 off stream, play some HOTS with the boys when the servers are down or whatever the case is. But I want to ask and thank everybody for their consideration. Also, give me some time and space to make sure that the Aftershock New World Guild is tip-top shape and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to have my hands in a couple different things over the next couple of weeks. But I think my next stream is going to be, or my next streams will be the open beta. And we'll just take it from there. But I'll be here for the podcast. I appreciate you guys. This was it was fun, kind of being challenged on a couple different things. I don't find myself being on the back foot or.
I enjoyed this one.
Yeah, I know it was a good one. So I want to thank each and every one of you individually and collectively, and all of you watching on everybody's channel, YouTube and Spotify. Thank you. We'll be back live next week. That is 12 p.m. Pacific, and that's 3 p.m. Eastern. This was episode 58. I'm Tim Allen 1337 on behalf of Moreland TV, Kerr, and Potion Shop TV. Thanks for tuning in. Hope we made your day a little bit better. Have a great and safe week, and we'll see you next time.